Vegapunk creates technology in the ninja world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Retreat and Inspection. The screams of the sand ninjas were endless. Yi Kang only looked around and found that the sand ninjas on the battlefield were on the verge of defeat after just one battle. There was nothing he could do about it. Including Yi Kang himself, the sand ninjas only had 10 jonins. This was because the situation was not favorable during this period, and the battle had a tendency to expand, so a lot of combat power was supported by the sand ninja village. In the normal time period of the previous few months, the total number of jonins of the mist ninjas and the sand ninjas on the entire battlefield would probably be less than 2 digits, and the jonins of both sides basically stayed in the camp, and there were very few real life and death battles. However, with the Mist Ninja Village, it should be said that the current Sea Ninja Village increased the pressure, and the Sand Ninja Village had to bite the bullet and stand up. It was just that the Sea Ninja Village said that it was increasing the pressure, but in fact it was just using this place as a test site. The Sand Ninjas had reached the end of their rope. The Third Shinobi World War was originally triggered by the disappearance of the Third Kazakage, and the Sand Ninjas suffered the most. When the war just ended, there were only 30 or 40 jonins left. In addition, due to the friction between the Mist Ninja and the failure of the war, the daimyo of the Wind Country reduced the funds allocated to the Sand Ninja Village. These reasons have led to the Sand Ninja being unable to rest and recuperate. Even after the Mist Ninja Village became the Sea Ninja Village and the fighting strength increased, the Sand Ninja sacrificed several jonin. It can be said that the current support strength is already the limit. After the war, the economy of the Sand Ninja was on the verge of collapse. The 4th Kazakage had to let some jonin take on tasks to recover funds. Now, even within the Sand Ninja Village, there are probably only a dozen jonin left. This is already a very dangerous sign for a large ninja village. The mobility of ninjas is far beyond that of ordinary people. Therefore, in order to avoid the danger of their hometown being stolen, a part of the jonin must be left inside the Sand Ninja Village anyway. All sand ninjas, retreat now. Yi Kang gritted her teeth and finally had to order a retreat. Although this meant that another large settlement in the Wind Country would be looted by the ninjas of the Sea Country, she could not let these sand ninjas be buried on this battlefield anyway. If we lose this part of ninjas, maybe the sand ninja will really fall out of the level of the 5 major ninja villages. Which major ninja village has less than 30 jonin? After giving the order, Yi Kang did not run away, but his offensive became more fierce. He alone held back more than 10 of the enemy's ninjas of the Corpse Vein. The orange-red fireballs flew all over the sky, forcing the entire large army of the Sea Ninja Village to retreat again and again. Lord Yi Kang, you should also retreat quickly. At this moment, several of Yi Kang's men persuaded, while organizing the retreat. Yi Kang shook his head and said firmly, "No, if there is no one to cover the rear, let these guys from the Sea Ninja Village chase us. I'm afraid that few people will be able to escape in the end. You guys go quickly. Pass on my order and organize everyone to retreat to the desert. The desert of the Wind Country has always been dangerous. Even if the sand ninjas are scattered and have incomplete supplies, they may die in the desert. But compared to the threat of being chased by hostile ninjas, crossing the desert is already the best choice." Half an hour later, all the ninjas had retreated, and even Yi Kang found an opportunity to leave the battlefield. The Sea Ninja Village didn't seem to have any intention of hunting them down, but went directly to occupy the coastal oasis city. "Lord Vegapunk, why don't you let me hunt down that woman who set off the fireball? That guy killed a lot of us." The Kaguya clan leader, waving his arms, walked into the tent in the middle of the camp and shouted loudly. In the middle of the tent, a blonde boy was checking the body of a ninja. After hearing this, he just glanced at him with disdain. However, a tall and beautiful woman next to the blonde boy punched him without hesitation. With a loud bang, the tall and strong Kaguya clan leader was directly knocked out. The sound of crackling was endless, and it was unknown how many bones were broken. The guards outside the tent only felt a gust of wind passing by, and then saw that the Kaguya clan leader left a long gully on the ground and collapsed to the ground. The two guards, the ninjas surround the camp, including many ninjas from the Kaguya clan, just looked at the Kaguya clan leader silently, and then went to do their own work. Oh, it's really powerful. Hancock's fist is still so powerful. Kala's voice was heard incessantly. This was the clan leader of the Kaguya clan, who was recovering the bones in his body. After a moment, he stood up again. This recovery ability was amazing enough. Of course, bones recover the fastest, and muscles are much slower. There are still many places on this guy's body that bleed, but he doesn't care. After Vegapunk studied the method of activating the blood limit, the whole Sea Ninja village was in an uproar. Although it takes a lot of merit to activate the blood limit, these blood limit families are strong. If they get together, they can still allow many clansmen to awaken the blood limit. Then after that, the Kaguya clan who received the news didn't know if they were cerebral palsy and did not choose to return to the Sea Ninja village, but prepared to snatch Vegapunk away directly. As a matter of course, before they approached the sea village, they were discovered by Vegapunk's biomagnetic field detection radar. Bored Vegapunk and Boa Hancock intercepted these guys. The two of them directly knocked over the entire Kaguya clan with their fists, and then the Kaguya clan followed them wholeheartedly. To be honest, perhaps because of the bloodstains on the bones and veins, the brains of these Kaguya clan also showed calcification. Anyway, in Vegapunk's view, these manic guys are indeed similar to a group of monkeys. As long as they can beat them purely with fists, they can become the Monkey King. After being punched, the patriarch of the Kaguya clan walked in honestly and watched Vegapunk use some strange instruments to extract something from the ninja and then put it in a test tube. "What are you doing?" The Kaguya clan leader scratched his head and asked in a strange way. "I'm extracting the essence of chakra," Vegapunk answered casually. Chakra is formed by the fusion of spiritual power and physical power, but in fact, the two need some kind of medium to act in the fusion. Although this medium seems to have little effect, it is actually an important element that affects the amount of chakra. Like your Kaguya clan, the medium in your body is far more than that of ordinary people. This is also one of the reasons why your chakra is many times more than that of ordinary people. In theory, the amount of chakra should be a fusion of spiritual energy and physical energy, but in fact, there are many children in this world who have already exceeded the chakra content of ordinary ninjas, or even jonins, as soon as they are born. You can't say that the spiritual energy and physical energy of these children exceed the level of jonins. Chapter 52 Hedgehog and Quarrel. After talking for a long time, Vegapunk turned his head and looked at the confused expression of the Kaguya clan leader. He immediately waved his hand in boredom. "Forget it. What's the point of telling you this? You just need to know that I'm trying to develop a potion that can increase chakra in large quantities." In Vegapunk's view, in addition to the chakra formed by the fusion of physical energy and spiritual energy, the chakra that serves as a medium is present in every ninja's body, but the quantity is very rare and basically has no effect on the ninja's strength. Only ninja clans like Kaguya, Uchiha, Senju, Hyuga, and Uzumaki, or occasionally some ninjas like Kisame, will show a much higher amount of chakra than ordinary people, because of the large amount of medium chakra in their bodies. This may be the residue of the fruit of the sacred tree. What makes Vegapunk curious is that the two different chakras can actually be converted to each other to a certain extent. Otherwise, where does the chakra extracted by the advent of the sacred tree world come from? All relying on medium chakra. How much is there? How could it be possible to gather a chakra amount at the level of the god tree? This kind of conversion is not just the ability of the god tree. In fact, Samehada's ability involves the conversion of two types of chakra. However, Samehada must consume at least 7 or 8 normal chakras to obtain a medium chakra, and it is impossible to perform a large-scale conversion like the god tree. In addition, Vegapunk also discovered that after the medium chakra was extracted, the chakra talent of those ninjas would shrink rapidly. It was not that the amount of chakra decreased, but the nature of the chakra changed and disappeared completely, becoming a useless person like Xiaoli who only had chakra, but could not use ninjutsu. Of course, the ninjas he used for the experiment were all sand ninjas. The reason why he came to the battlefield was to see the results of the transformation of these ninjas. This battlefield originally existed because of this experiment. Otherwise, with the current explosive strength of the Sea Ninja village, the Sand Ninjas would have been flattened long ago. Secondly, it was because enough experimental subjects could be caught here. Vegapunk had no shortage of ordinary experimental subjects, but there were really few experimental subjects who had reached the level of Jonin. Originally in the Sea Country, Vegapunk only had Abuser as a Jonin experimental subject. However, after conquering the Mist Village, he released this unlucky guy. Vegapunk also compensated him, which greatly improved his strength. Now, the battle with the Sand Ninja has only lasted for a month, and Vegapunk has almost collected several data on chakras. Thanks to the enthusiastic dedication of the Sand Ninjas, the number of Sand Ninjas that he has disabled has probably exceeded 3 digits. Of course, in comparison, Vegapunk's approach is extremely merciful among ninjas. These ninjas can no longer use ninjutsu, but at least they can retain their physical skills. Some of the special professions of the Sand Ninjas, such as puppeteers, have not even been affected too much. If they were in a normal ninja village, the fate of these captives would be even worse. Chief Kagura scratched his head and refused to comment on Vegapunk's evaluation of him. He was used to this kind of thing anyway. It was nothing more than that. If someone said he was stupid, he could use his fists to make them take back their words. But when the person in front of him said he was stupid, he could only bear it. By the way, doctor, why don't you let us go after that bitch Yikang? She killed many of us. Don't worry, she will come to us automatically, Vegapunk said without raising his head, and Yikang will be a good sword for dealing with the Sand Ninja village in the future. By the way, this is the genetic modification fluid I newly developed. It should be the most compatible with your corpse vein. Chief Kagura's attention was immediately diverted. Really? What animal is it? Oh, it's a hedgehog. This is the result of comparing the genes of more than 100 kinds of animals. Vegapunk waved his hand and spoke. The face of the Kagura clan leader immediately turned ugly. Hedgehog, how could it be this kind of animal? Doctor, you are not mistaken, right? Shouldn't the strong creatures such as lions and tigers be suitable for our Kagura clan? Vegapunk rolled his eyes. In fact, in addition to hedgehogs, there are indeed more suitable genetic modification fluids for you. But what? What animal is it? Is it very rare? Don't worry, no matter where the animal is, we can catch it. The Kagura clan leader was refreshed and spoke quickly. It's a turtle. Huh? What did you say? It's an oolong? What kind of animal is that? I said, it's a turtle. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How can our Kagura clan have any similarities with turtles? Don't be silly. In addition to insects, the only animals with exoskeletons are turtles. Even the thorns of hedgehogs can only be said to be close to exoskeletons. Or you can try porcupines. In the end, the Kagura clan leader still left with a look of doubt about life, holding the hedgehog genetic modification fluid exchanged for military merits. The Sand Village, the Kazakage building, the office was filled with a depressing atmosphere. Intelligence from the front line had come in. Although Yikang tried his best to cover the rear, and the Sea Village didn't pay much attention to the pursuit, the Sand Village still suffered heavy losses this time, even losing 3 Jonin. The most important thing is the strength shown by the Sea Village. If all the ninjas who appeared in rotation during this period were added together, the Sea Village had already deployed nearly 60 Jonins in just such a local battlefield. This number is almost twice the current number of Sand Village Jonins. Although the Mist Ninjas didn't suffer much loss in the Third Ninja World War, and were later reorganized into the Sea Village, their strength actually increased a bit, but deploying 60 Jonins in a local battlefield was also terrifying. Everyone, let's talk about what to do. Now our coastline defense line has been breached, and this time we lost hundreds of ninjas, including 3 Jonins. The 4th Kazakage Rasa looked grim, and was the first to speak. I think the commander of this battle should be held accountable. What's going on? They have been losing battles one after another in the past 2 months, without even a single victory. A Sand Ninja Jonin spoke up immediately, glancing at Ilyusha. That can't be blamed on Yikang. With that level of power gap, it's impossible to win. At this time, another Jonin frowned and explained for Yikang. What a joke. You really believed Yikang's information. 7 or 8 Snow Clan and a dozen blood ninjas from the Kizuna clan are fine, but more than 30 corpse bloodline ninjas, I'm afraid the Mist Village can't produce them since its establishment. Chapter 53 Negotiation and Compensation. Looking at the noisy Sand Village ninjas below, Alyosha's face showed a bit of worry. These ninjas were still arguing about whether the information sent by Yi Kang was true or false, but Alyosha had already known in his heart that it was indeed real information. As the Kazakage, he must have his own intelligence system, and among the people under Yi Kang, there are naturally people who obey him. The information of one person may be false, and the information of 2 people may also be forged. It is impossible that the information obtained from all channels is false. Question mark? But even if he got this kind of information, he didn't dare to really publicize it to his subordinates, otherwise, the morale of the Sand Ninjas, which had already hit the bottom, might collapse completely. But he couldn't really turn a blind eye and deny this matter, because the Sea Ninja Village was the one that could really pull out a large number of bloody ninjas. If the ninjas of the Sand Village really regarded it as false propaganda, they would probably collapse even faster when faced with the real situation. Of course, the people in the conference room are all the high-ranking members of the Sand Village. Now, this news can't be hidden from them for too long. In fact, it is estimated that many people have already received the real information. Okay, stop arguing. Now our problem is how to deal with the Sea Village, not to shirk responsibility. Alyosha finally slammed the table and shouted angrily. This. A group of Sand Ninjas looked at each other and didn't say anything. The current Sand Ninja is in a period of transition. When it was the weakest, the Jinkriki was just a 1-year-old baby. In the whole village, the only strong man in his prime, besides the Kazakage Alyosha, was Yi Kang. Even Yi Kang was beaten so badly in the past. What can this group of people do? As for the foundation, there are still Chiyo and Ibizo. As a standard ninja, Ibizo is probably no longer able to fight at this age. He is almost at the level of an elite jonin. He can't fight a protracted battle, and can only burst out in one wave. As a puppeteer, Chiyo can still maintain the strength of a cage, but it would be better to let the Kazakage go to the battlefield directly than to let an old lady of this age go out. Do we still have the ability to support the battlefield now? The number of jonin in the village has dropped to the lowest danger line. Should we let some jonin who are on missions come back? But there is not much money in the village. We don't even know where to squeeze out the pension for the ninjas who died in this battle. The only one who is more powerful than Yi Kang is Lord Kazakage, but if Lord Kazakage takes action, it will be a full-scale war. Alyosha was silent. In fact, if he really fought with Yi Kang, he didn't dare to guarantee that he would win. There are many reasons why Alyosha was able to become Kazakage. On the one hand, as a disciple of the 3rd generation Kazakage, he has a good family background and inherited most of the political legacy of the 3rd generation Kazakage. On the other hand, the magnetic escape developed by Alyosha is a little different from his teacher in the 2nd generation Kazakage. It controls not sand iron, but gold sand. This kind of ninjutsu is absolutely good for mining and panning in the desert. It can be said that Alyosha alone supported 1/3 of the funding of the Sand Village. It was precisely because of this characteristic of the god of wealth that Alyosha could easily ascend to the position of Wind Shadow. As for combat power, gold miners don't have much combat power. Gold sand is too heavy and slow to manipulate. Its soft texture makes its strength not comparable to that of iron sand. It can be said that compared with ordinary ninjutsu that manipulates sand, even if it is strong, it is limited. Alyosha's strength is only the most ordinary among the cage level, even if he is not a goalkeeper. Among the 5 cages today, he is the weakest. A group of people discussed for a long time, but still did not come to any conclusion. At this time, a senior executive finally couldn't help but say, if it really doesn't work, let's make peace with the Sea Village. As soon as this sentence came out, the whole conference room suddenly became quiet, and everyone's face became very ugly, full of humiliation. As early as a few months ago, the Sand Ninja had wanted to end this meaningless war. The two sides were about to reach an agreement. The Mist Ninja would withdraw its troops and stop harassing the Sand Ninja's coastline, and the Sand Ninja would hand over the so-called war hero Yi Kang. Although this condition always makes people feel that the sand ninja is a bit stupid, once any war factor is mixed with political factors, it will make people wonder if the person sitting in a high position has a pig brain. So this kind of thing is just commonplace. But somehow, the original Mist Village was suddenly reorganized into the Sea Village, and the conditions that were about to be negotiated were completely torn up, and more conditions that seemed impossible to the Sand Ninja were proposed. For example, a large number of rare metal resources and biological resources, many unique mineral deposits in the desert, and some unique biological resources. This is undoubtedly cutting meat on the Sand Ninja Village. The Sand Ninja Village is already poor enough, and if it pays compensation, it can only eat sand and drink northwest wind. The Sand Ninja immediately said that there is no money, but there is only a life, so what do you want? Just keep fighting. Then the Sand Ninja Village was beaten like a dog. As a result, now we have to beg for peace. Doesn't my Sand Ninja Village have any shame? Well, anyway, it's not the first or second time that the Sand Ninja has done this kind of thing. For example, in several ninja world wars, the Sand Ninja took the initiative to cause trouble for Konoha, and then surrendered at the speed of light in the shortest time. Two-faced people have almost become the label of the Sand Ninja. I think Luosha and the high-level officials of the Sand Ninja Village will not care about face issues. But the various benefits that have to be paid after surrendering are really unbearable for the Sand Ninja. If they really do this, the Sand Ninja Village may not be able to recover in more than 10 years. But if they don't surrender, the Sand Ninja can't fight anymore. The number of Sand Ninja has been reduced to an extremely dangerous line now. At most, there may be only more than 3,000 people. The number of ninjas in the 5 major ninja villages is generally floating. For example, before the Second Ninja World War, the Sand Ninja had a force of nearly 10,000 people. As a result, after 2 wars, there were only 3,000 ninjas left. This number is not too different from the medium-sized ninja villages such as the Grass Ninja Village and the Rain Ninja Village. If the Ninja World War had not just ended and all the ninja villages were licking their wounds, ninja villages like the Rain Ninja might have already begun to challenge the Sand Ninja. After a long silence, several high-ranking officials sighed. It seems that this is the only choice now. The Sand Ninja Village really can't fight any longer. But we don't have that much compensation. Didn't you say that we can pay in installments? Although it's a little more, at least we don't have to bleed all at once. But if we really accept the other party's conditions, the development of our Sand Ninja will be affected in the next 10 years. In the end, Luosha knocked on the table and decided to agree to the installment payment conditions. At the same time, he also spoke to encourage other Sand Ninja high-ranking officials. Who knows what the situation will be in a few years. Let's deal with the past first. I don't believe that the Sea Ninja Village can always maintain this strength. When he has problems, we can naturally refuse compensation. Chapter 54 Shadow Clones and Research. Did the Sand Ninjas finally agree to our request? Zigwish and Puffer Ghost looked at the reply from the Sand Ninja Village, smiled, and said to Vegapunk beside him, they really don't cry until they see the coffin. Should we ask for more supplies this time? Vegapunk looked through the supply list and shook his head. No, you might as well ask them to allocate some mining areas to us directly. Those guys are wasteful and slow in mining. They can't mine in slightly poorer mining areas. Although the Sand Ninjas have a gold miner like Luosha, they only have a little advantage in mining gold. As for mining other minerals in the desert, they are also at a loss. And Vegapunk seemed to have thought of something and said lightly, if my plan succeeds, then the Sand Ninjas can almost become our backyard. The conversation ended there. Vegapunk walked out of the Mizukage's office and then walked to the laboratory. Today, the laboratory of the Sea Ninja Village has become the largest institution in the entire village, and it has also become an absolute money-eating beast. I don't know how many resources have flowed into it. It is also the center of the entire Sea Ninja Village. To put it bluntly, if the enemy attacks the Mizukage building and the experimental center at the same time, then those ninjas will definitely support the experimental center first, and even the Mizukage building will have to wait in line. Although the so-called experimental center actually studies inventions that Vegapunk has already developed, it is just doing some repetitive work. As for Vegapunk's own laboratory, it will naturally not be placed here. The most important thing is not the instruments and materials in the laboratory, but the quantum brain in his hand. This thing is a real unique product that cannot be copied. It is also the most important item in Vegapunk's hands. For this reason, he simply used ninjutsu to open a big hole in the bottom of the Earth's crust, creating an underground laboratory nearly several kilometers above the ground. The energy is completely supplied by the magma flow passing through the underground, which can barely make the quantum brain operate. With the computing power of the quantum brain, the current level of laboratory has no way to fully utilize it, and can only use a tiny part of its computing power. Relying on the method of wireless brainwave transmission, several laboratories in Vegapunk's hands are using the computing power of this quantum brain at the same time. Walking into the current laboratory, Vegapunk soon saw a person who looked exactly like him collecting data. This was the clone he created using the shadow clone technique. Vegapunk had developed the shadow clone with quantum chip projection as early as when he first came to the land of water, but if the quantum chip is operated to its limit, it will still cause the shadow clone to dissolve naturally. According to research, this is because the speed of calculation that the quantum chip can undertake as a projection has a limit. Therefore, his shadow clone can only use about 1/5 of the computing power. As a host of some simple directional research, there is no problem, but if you want to coordinate the overall situation and connect all the research, it is still a little short, and it must be done by Vegapunk himself. Next to Vegapunk's shadow clone was Orochimaru, who had a pale face, dark circles under his eyes, and messy black hair. Judging from his current condition, he had obviously been conducting research for an unknown period of time. Although Orochimaru was the world's #1 scientist, he was no match for Vegapunk, a cheater. Even his shadow clone was superior to Orochimaru. After all, even if the quantum chip was removed, Orochimaru and Vegapunk's levels could only be said to be comparable. As Vegapunk's shadow clone, he still had some quantum chips to add to his research, so Orochimaru was naturally exhausted from keeping up with the research. Even so, Orochimaru's bloodshot eyes still flashed with excitement. He was looking at the data collected by Vegapunk's shadow clone, and occasionally wrote something in his notebook. Orochimaru, I think you should take a break. Vegapunk looked at Orochimaru, who looked like he was about to die, and couldn't help but speak. Okay, wait till I finish memorizing these formulas. At this moment, Vegapunk's shadow clone raised his head, as if he had thought of something, because of what the original said, and pushed open the door of a laboratory, only to see Orochimaru doing experiments there. Without saying a word, Vegapunk's shadow clone went up, and punched the shadow clone, completely blowing it up, and then Vegapunk's original body saw Orochimaru's eyes rolled up and he fainted. Obviously, as the fatigue of the shadow clone was passed on, Orochimaru really couldn't bear it. Hey, this guy didn't really die suddenly, did he? Vegapunk said in surprise, and his shadow clone shook his head. Don't worry, this guy won't die so easily. Besides, the chakra version of soul transfer technology has been developed almost now. If it doesn't work, just give him a new body. After losing the Fantasy Star, the soul transfer technology naturally lost its hardware conditions, but fortunately, with the specific data, it is much easier to develop the chakra version of soul transfer. In addition, Orochimaru himself has a lot of research data in this area. Today's soul transfer ninjutsu has been developed almost completely, and at most it is still lacking a few experiments. The reason why he is not reincarnated now is that Orochimaru himself does not want to abandon his original body and wants to study the path of immortalization. Okay, how is your research going? Vegapunk asked the shadow clone at the first time. This shadow clone is studying the more important immortalization ability. Vegapunk is still more concerned about this power that can prolong life. Even if he has the ability to transfer souls, Vegapunk still does not want to change his body frequently. Even if the soul is not damaged, it still takes time to run in with the body. And every time he changes his body, it is equivalent to abandoning the results of his previous physical training. Even if Vegapunk relies entirely on technology such as training cabins to practice, he actually doesn't put in much sweat, but it still wastes a lot of time. What's more, who can say that the soul will never decay? In comparison, by absorbing natural energy and transforming it into an immortal to improve one's life level, it is much more reliable than changing the body. How should I put it? It can be considered a certain result. The shadow clone said a few words, then stretched out his hand. It would be faster to exchange memories. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Sage Mode and Funding. As the shadow clones turned into a cloud of white smoke, a large amount of memories entered Vegapunk's brain at the same time. Compared to the protagonist Uzumaki Naruto, who developed a method to train multiple shadow clones and had a single-minded mind, Vegapunk's clones were the kind of people who had a lot of thoughts in their heads and were the least suitable candidates for multiple shadow clones. For example, Orochimaru only dared to create one shadow clone when doing research. He was afraid that, if he created more, the large amount of memories would make him a fool, not to mention Vegapunk, whose brain thought speed was far faster than that of ordinary people. Normal people would be afraid that, if they accepted a shadow clone of Vegapunk, they would be forced to become a vegetable by the huge memory. Fortunately, Vegapunk himself had a quantum chip, which allowed him to easily accept all the memories and research of the shadow clones, but he did not dare to create too many. Well, it's really a certain result. Vegapunk's face was a little subtle. How to say it? After this period of research, his shadow clone has developed a kind of sage mode that is close to permanent. In fact, it is also very simple. Orochimaru once had the idea of a curse seal. Although it has not been completely successful and has only been used once on his student Red Bean, this way of automatically absorbing natural energy has indeed given Vegapunk's shadow clone a direction. Through continuous improvement, Vegapunk finally transformed the curse seal into an external organ that can automatically absorb natural energy and permanently match spiritual power and physical strength to synthesize chakra. In other words, it can permanently maintain the sage mode. According to Vegapunk's tests and estimates, permanently maintaining the sage mode can indeed increase the lifespan of a ninja, but at most it can only live to nearly 200 years old. This sage mode allows people to live to the theoretical limit of their lifespan, but how to break the limit of lifespan should be the secret of those animal sages. Those animals probably won't be easy to talk to, but it doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, just dissect them as experimental subjects and we should be able to get all the answers. Vegapunk didn't have a good impression of animal immortals in the so-called immortal arts holy places, especially the Ryochi cave, where Orochimaru made the contract, which had long been regarded by Vegapunk as experimental material. The reason why Vegapunk didn't kill those snakes was because immortal arts holy places like the Ryochi cave also had a certain binding force on the contractors. Not to mention other things, just the reverse summoning contract alone was destined to make it difficult for the contractors to escape if these immortal arts holy places really wanted to kill. Although it was rare to hear about such things, smart people would definitely think of these problems. Compared with the summoned beasts that would automatically return after being seriously injured, the reverse summoning technique did not have this function. It can be said that who is in control of the two sides can be seen from these two ninjutsu. Therefore, Vegapunk did not even look at the contract scroll of the immortal art holy land. He did not want to be reversed to the dragon cave and beaten by a group of big snakes just after signing the contract. After all, the big toad can predict the future. Who knows if the white snake immortal has the same function? Or is there any connection between the three holy places? Of course, the current complete immortal mode is still very useful. Vegapunk picked up a test tube on the table. The test tube contained a silver potion, which was also an improved curse potion. As long as this potion is applied directly to the skin, the potion will form a micro-organ on the body, directly absorbing natural energy and harmonizing its own chakra to form immortal art chakra. If the technology is updated later, it can be dispelled by applying another potion. The only problem is that it requires extremely precious materials. One bottle of these medicines is worth hundreds of millions, right? It seems that we can only make 3 or 5 bottles recently. After all, opening laboratories and bases all over the world has consumed a lot of money for Vegapunk, not to mention that each of his inventions cost a lot of money at the beginning. So even if he has obtained the support of all the countries in the sea, for the sake of future development, he cannot withdraw too much cash flow. Give Hancock, Robin and me one first, and Orochimaru can't be left out. TSK, scientific research is really too expensive. Let's do something for people's livelihood in the near future to recover some funds. In the Naruto world, materials are not so scarce. In terms of people's livelihood development, it is almost close to modern society. Various modern machines have already shown certain performances in the original work, and have begun to be used on a large scale in this era. Except for the slow development of war technology due to ninjas, the actual productivity is not low. Although the so-called development of productivity through ninjutsu in some fan fictions cannot be said to be nonsense, the cost performance is indeed not too high. Ninjutsu is convenient, and machinery is not inferior. Moreover, the development direction of ninjutsu has always been destruction, and the quality of construction is not very good. For example, a house built with earth escape can withstand the damage of ninjutsu when using chakra to reinforce it, because there is no foundation. However, after the chakra is taken back, it will collapse completely within a year or two. Of course, some special ninjutsu do have extremely high civilian value, such as wood escape and magnetic escape, but ordinary 5-element ninjutsu is not very valuable in developing people's livelihood. It just so happens that Robin doesn't need to be in charge of the sea ninja now, so let her do her old business, run my inventions, and collect funds. In this regard, he still believes in Robin's ability, not to mention that with Vegapunk's invention as a first product, it is really easy to make money. These thoughts only flashed through his mind. When he was in the pirate world, he also used this method to make money in the early days. It was another pillar of his life besides the funds of the world government. Later, with the advancement of Vegapunk's technology, especially the emergence of quantum brains, sufficient computing power was used to create a large number of autonomous machines, resulting in future Island and Fantasy Star having the ability to mine minerals, replicate production, and collect resources. Vegapunk was no longer concerned about money. However, even if Vegapunk had experience, it would probably take a long time to restore the technology tree to the victorious pirates period. Although the chakra in the Naruto world made it easier to climb the technology, it was still a little behind the development of mechanical technology compared to the devil fruit abilities in the pirates world. Chapter 56 Experimental Success and Negotiation. How is it? How do you feel? Vegapunk asked after taking a look at Hancock, who seemed to have not changed at all. Vegapunk had just used the external Sage Mode potion on Hancock, using it as ink, and applying it to Hancock's arm using the sealing technique. When the sealing technique was completed, the potion's effect on the body also ended, forming a microorgan that absorbs and harmonizes natural energy. However, on the surface, Hancock did not change at all except for some flower patterns on her white arms. She did not wear any eyeshadow, nor did she have any patterns on her face, and she did not show any animalistic behavior. Hancock clenched his fist and sensed it. My chakra seems to have been strengthened a lot, but the most important thing is that my body seems to have been strengthened. Maybe it has become 20% to 30% stronger? Senjutsu chakra is said to be able to strengthen the power of ninjutsu and taijutsu by several times or even dozens of times, but this obviously depends on one's own base. If Hancock's own physique is 10 times stronger, I'm afraid even Kagura Otsutsuki can be beaten, which is naturally impossible. Just like Uchiha Madara during the 4th Ninja War, after obtaining Senjutsu chakra, his strength has certainly improved a little, but it has only increased by a few percent at most. This is because his own strength is already close to the ceiling. For ordinary ninjas, the Sage Mode, which can greatly enhance his strength, is only a slight enhancement for him. Despite this, Hancock is actually quite satisfied. At her stage, the effect of ordinary training is not great. At least it will take more than 10 years to improve so much. A smile appeared on her face. Dear, is this the new technology you developed recently? You gave it to me first. I'm so touched. Among the three of us, your body is the strongest. Even if there is any problem, that little bit of natural energy will not cause any harm to you. If I want to do the experiment, of course I have to find you. These words just turned around in Vegapunk's mind. He is not a fool, and will definitely not say such words directly. Instead, he smiled and said to Hancock, "Of course, Hancock, your strength is the strongest among us. If you want to gain a foothold in this strange world, you must rely more on Hancock. Don't worry, dear, I will definitely protect you well." Hancock rushed over and hugged Vegapunk tightly. Fortunately, the current Vegapunk has already replaced his body, otherwise he might break a few bones this time. Vegapunk patted Hancock and asked her to let him go. He thought that this empress was easier to coax. If it was Nico Robin, she would probably start to complain. Did they have to rule the world before they could stand firm? With the current strength of the Vegapunk trio, plus the power of their subordinates, they really couldn't find a situation that would put them in danger without the appearance of the Otsutsuki sage. After Hancock let go, Vegapunk extracted some cells from her body and began to study for another hour or two. In the end, he came to the conclusion that the effect of the permanent sage mode on people in the pirate world and people in the Naruto world should be similar. After that, he took the collected materials and made 2 sage mode potions for himself and Robin. As for Orochimaru, let him collect and make them himself. Anyway, as his assistant, Orochimaru himself is also very clear about the formula and manufacturing method, which can save a lot of money. In addition, unlike Vegapunk's rough call of that potion as the Sage Mode potion, Orochimaru called the potion the Sage Medicine, and the whole process was called the Sage Seal. Perhaps it was because people in the Naruto world like to name things. Anyway, it sounds much more high-end when called this way. At least it is much easier to use it to lure his men to work. However, because a large amount of rare materials are needed now, except for the Vegapunk trio, even the Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish Ghost has not been strengthened by the Sage Seal, because the raw materials have almost been used up by the 3. But Orochimaru, this guy, does have some means. I don't know where he got the raw materials from, and he made another sage medicine for himself and asked Vegapunk to make a sage seal for him. In fact, the sealing method required for the sage seal is extremely complicated. Except for Vegapunk, who has a quantum brain, even a ninjutsu genius like Orochimaru dare not guarantee that he can succeed every time. Faced with hundreds of millions of taels of raw materials, Orochimaru dare not waste them casually. While Vegapunk and the others were studying the Sage Mode, 2 or 3 months had passed. Ever since the Sea Village occupied the coastal cities of the Wind Country in the last war, the Sand Ninjas had always wanted to take them back, but the huge gap in strength made them only dare to rely on the desert terrain to barely deal with them. Even so, they still lost more than they lost. Although the territory of the Wind Country is the largest among the 5 major countries, most of it is a desert. Except for the vicinity of several river main roads, there are only a few oases in scattered areas. Among them, the coastal area is one of the essences of the entire Wind Country because of the abundant water brought by the monsoon, and it can be said that it occupies at least 30% of the tax revenue of the Wind Country. It is conceivable how anxious the daimyo of the Wind Country would be if such a place was occupied. Since that great defeat, the wording of the letters sent by the daimyo of the Wind Country to the Sand Ninja Village has become more and more severe, and they almost forced the entire Sand Ninja Village to go to the battlefield. Under such circumstances, the Sand Ninja had only 2 choices left: all-out war or all-out surrender. Under tremendous pressure, Luosha had to speed up the originally slow progress of the negotiations, and soon the first phase of the Sand Ninja compensation was in place. Yi Kang opened his eyes in a daze, and he felt that his head was still a little dizzy. Where am I? Oh, I remember that the village gave me an important task, asking me to go to the Sea Ninja Village for peace negotiations. As Yi Kang recalled, she seemed to have returned to that time period. These are the various materials and funds that were handed over to the Sea Ninja Village in the first phase. The Sea Ninja Village has promised that, as long as the first phase of funds and materials are delivered, they will return to the sea. A middle-aged man with a dark face, a serious expression, and a bit of ruthlessness said to Yi Kang. He brought a dozen men, and escorted a large cart of sealing scrolls. Yi Kang looked at the pattern of the sealing scrolls, and then calculated the number. Just by estimating in his mind, he knew that the village had lost a lot this time. Chapter 57 Betrayal and Laboratory. Although he felt very sad about the compensation this time, Yi Kang knew in his heart that the Sand Ninja could not fight any longer. Well, the war is finally over, Yi Kang said tiredly. Before we get the specific information about why the Sea Ninja village has so many bloodline limit ninjas, we can only avoid their sharp edge now. This is not enough. The Sea Ninja village still has a condition. The black-faced middle-aged ninja said lightly. Yi Kang frowned. Those greedy pirates. What other conditions do they have? They need a top-notch bloodline ninja for a search. Yi Kang was slightly stunned. The Sand Ninja village can be said to be the ninja village with the least bloodline ninjas among the 5 major ninja villages. The number of bloodline ninjas in the entire village is probably less than 2 digits. And it seems that only Luo Shao himself can be called top bloodline ninjas, right? Just as this thought flashed through his mind, Yi Kang suddenly felt his body soften, his eyes turned black, and he was immediately shocked. She took a deep breath and tried to control the chakra in her body, but she found that the chakra was scattered like a headless fly and did not respond to her commands at all. Is this poisoned? Question mark. And it was the poison of her own ninja village. The Sand Ninja was the best at playing poison among the 5 major ninja villages. Only the Sand Ninja who had studied themselves thoroughly could give Yi Kang this kind of timed explosion poison when Yi Kang herself was unaware, and once it exploded, there would be no resistance at all. Don't blame me, Yi Kang, who told you to block the way. The black-faced ninja looked at the collapsed Yi Kang and said coldly, it just so happens that, because of your activeness this time, the Sea Ninja village has also included you in the compensation list, so let you serve the village for the last time. Damn, are you kidding? Yi Kang's face was pale, and he was panting. Selling out companions from one's own ninja village in exchange for so-called peace is simply disgusting. What's more, weakening the power of one's own ninja village, just to exchange for a peace treaty that can be torn up at any time. Do the high-ranking officials of the ninja village have problems with their brains? Haha, you don't have to think about these. The high-ranking officials of the ninja village naturally have their own ideas. You just need to be a good bargain. Okay, let's catch our Scorch release hero. After that, Yi Kang was directly sealed and fed some strong anesthetics. She was drowsy for an unknown period of time. Now is the first time she has fully woken up since that day. Looking around, the white walls were decorated with various high-tech instruments. The lights on the ceiling were bright and dazzling, illuminating the entire room. It seemed to be an extremely advanced laboratory. Then Yi Kang was somewhat surprised to find that the chakra in her body was not prohibited. Her face was slightly happy, and she immediately raised her hand to summon the burning fireball. However, after she stretched out her hand, except for a few sparks, there was not even a shadow of the fireball, which made Yi Kang stunned. Don't be silly, there is an external chakra energy jammer in this small laboratory. Any ninjutsu belonging to the release type will lose its original form under the effect of the jammer and turn into pure chakra, so your escape technique cannot be used. Yi Kang was startled when she heard a voice behind her. She turned around and looked behind with a vigilant face. Basically, after reaching the level of Jonin, one will have a certain ability to sense chakra. Maybe it can't reach the level of sensing ninja, but it is generally difficult to be attacked by others. But before the voice behind her sounded, Yi Kang really didn't feel anything at all, which meant that either the other party had some kind of hidden ninjutsu that interfered with chakra perception, or his strength was far superior to hers, and he was a master of chakra control. In the ninja world, except for some chakra monsters whose quantity changed and caused qualitative changes, chakra control is even more important than the amount of chakra. Many shadow level masters may only be 1 or 2 times stronger than ordinary Jonin in terms of chakra, but their chakra control has definitely reached the top of the ninja world. After all, the amount of chakra is innate, but chakra control can be trained, and the ability of acquired training can often better show a person's level. But turning around, Yi Kang was surprised to find that the person standing behind her was not the face full of flesh, or sharp teeth, or the gloomy and indifferent sea ninja she had originally imagined, but a handsome boy with bright blonde hair, slender figure, and fair skin. At this moment, the young man was holding something like a report in his hand. He was looking at it carefully and said to Yi Kang without raising his head, "Don't panic. It's useless to panic anyway. You have been sold here by the Sand Ninja. Where else do you want to escape to?" Yi Kang gritted his teeth and hated it secretly. This kid looks pretty good, but his mouth is too poisonous. And although the words of the kid just now were a bit too professional and difficult to understand, Yi Kang still understood most of the meaning. It seems that all external ninjutsu cannot be performed. But Yi Kang is not a weak chicken who has no fighting power after losing his blood limit. To be able to become a competitor of Luosha, Yi Kang's strength has reached the standard of Cage. Even without the Scorch release, relying on physical skills alone, Yi Kang is not inferior to those Jonins who are good at physical skills. Yi Kang's figure flashed by, and he appeared in front of Vegapunk in an instant. He stretched out his hand directly, grabbed his shoulder, and then pressed hard. This is also due to the current appearance of Vegapunk. If it were a standard Miss Ninja, Yi Kang would probably knock him down with a punch, then step on his head and ask questions. It can only be said that everyone is an animal of appearance, especially when facing young teenagers and children. But Yi Kang stretched out his hand and pressed Vegapunk's shoulder and felt something was wrong. He felt as if he was pressing on a mountain made of pig iron. The other party stood still, but his hand bones were aching. Yi Kang reacted very quickly and directly jumped up with the force of his arm pressing. When he was in the air, his legs were entangled and stuck to Vegapunk's neck, and the whole person turned over and threw hard. However, what Yi Kang imagined to use the force to throw Vegapunk out did not happen. Instead, Vegapunk stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Yi Kang's long legs like white jade icicles and hung Yi Kang up instead. Yi Kang felt the warm touch from his thigh and the faint breath, and his face suddenly blushed. "Asshole, let me go." Chapter 58 Used Scheme. Ouch. Yi Kang screamed in pain and was carried by Vegapunk and thrown on an iron bed. Vegapunk casually pressed a button on the bed and Yi Kang groaned and collapsed on the bed, unable to move at all. Feeling that he could not move, Yi Kang's face showed a look of horror. "What's going on? What ability are you using? What do you want to do? Don't make a fuss. I just disturbed your body's magnetic field." Vegapunk held down Yi Kang, who was twisting slightly on the iron bed, and spoke lightly. Yi Kang gritted his teeth. "What do you want to do, you guy? Don't go too far, otherwise I will not do what you want even if I die." Vegapunk rolled his eyes. "Haha, you think too much. I just want to study your blood limit." "Study my blood limit?" Exclamation mark. Yi Kang was slightly stunned and then thought of some information he had obtained when he was the commander of the Sand Ninja. Golden hair, youthful demeanor, handsome appearance, with a long sword at his waist. "You are Vegapunk." Yi Kang couldn't help but speak out. The Sand Village had indeed heard about Vegapunk's information. After all, Vegapunk had done too many big things and had too wide an influence, so it was impossible to prevent the leakage of information. However, Zigwashin Puffer Ghost, the Mizukage, as a veteran intelligence officer, had already thought of a countermeasure. He released a large amount of false information. Except for Kakashi, who had contact with Vegapunk and let Konoha village get some general information, the information obtained by other ninja villages was varied and difficult to distinguish between true and false. For example, there is information that the Sea village has developed a special ninjutsu that can stimulate the blood limit in a short period of time, and then the blood limit will be permanently silent. There is also information that the reason why the Sea village was established is that the daimyo of the Land of Water has been infiltrating other countries for many years and finally secretly annexed and controlled all countries, which is why the Sea village was established. There are also those bloodline limit families who actually concealed their actual population, and the real population is more than 10 times more than what is shown. Anyway, there are all kinds of information, many of which seem incredible, but if you think about it carefully, there seems to be some truth in the information, which makes all the intelligence personnel very confused. Among them, the information about Vegapunk is also mixed in, and it is undoubtedly the kind of information with low credibility. No matter how you look at it, Vegapunk is just a teenager of 13 or 14 years old. Even if a teenager of this age directly becomes a cage-level strongman, the possibility is countless times greater than becoming a top scientist. After all, there are shortcuts such as bloodline limits for ninja training, and science is the accumulation of real knowledge. At this age, being able to learn all kinds of professional knowledge is already the limit of talent. If he can directly produce a large number of research results, then he must have started learning in his previous life. However, Vegapunk is indeed an exception who started learning in his previous life, so this information with low credibility is actually the correct information. Oh, you know me. Vegapunk was stunned for a moment, then waved his hand indifferently. Since you know my name, I believe you should also understand what I do. You want to study my blood limit? Yi Kang gritted his teeth and said coldly, why, your sea ninjas don't have enough blood limit? Don't get me wrong, the reason I study your blood limit is just to accumulate. Vegapunk waved his hand. I don't think many people in the environment of the Sea Ninja village can practice your scorch release. After all, the ocean environment and your blood limit are not very compatible. Unless he cheats, Vegapunk thought secretly in his heart. If he wanted, it would not be difficult for any ninja to have some ordinary blood limits. However, the upper limit of the simple to chakra composite blood limit is too low. Even the so-called elite Jonin is not a big deal for Vegapunk now. Naturally, he does not want to create such a ninja who is neither high nor low. For Vegapunk, studying Yi Kang's blood limit is to accumulate more knowledge about chakra fusion, and secondly, and most importantly, because the high temperature sphere provided by Yi Kang's burning release plays a big role in certain experiments. Hearing that Vegapunk looked down on her burning release, Yi Kang couldn't help but snort coldly, and then thought about her own situation. She was sad again, and was stunned for a while. Vegapunk didn't care so much. While she was discouraged, he pressed her on the bed, connected a lot of wires to her chakra holes, observed her chakra operation through the machine, and then gave her a whole set of blood tests. After a set of procedures, Yi Kang looked like a loser. Scorch release is actually somewhat useful. If used as an ignition device, this instant high temperature and superconductivity can replace a lot of machines and simplify the structure of the energy furnace by at least 5%. Vegapunk was writing and drawing, speaking professional terms that Yi Kang couldn't understand at all. At this time, Yi Kang, who had been enduring Vegapunk's inspection, spoke in a hoarse voice with a frustrated and desperate look. What are you going to do with me? In the cruel ninja world, ninjas who fall into the hands of the enemy usually have no good end. Especially Yi Kang herself has a blood feud with the original Miss Ninja, and she is a beautiful, sexy, and powerful female ninja with a blood limit. Just thinking about it, she can't stop despair in her heart. For a moment, Yi Kang wished that she could die on the battlefield fighting with the Sea Ninja, which would be better than her current situation. It depends on your choice. According to the original Miss Ninja, you are the mother of the bloodline limit. Yi Kang clenched her hands tightly. Even in the case of disturbed biomagnetic field, the bones of her hands were pinched white, and her eyes revealed an extremely desperate expression. She opened her mouth, but couldn't even say a word. But I think this is a bit too inefficient. Maybe when we really cultivate the Scorch Release family, we will have unified the entire ninja world. Vegapunk shrugged again. So in the end I rejected their way of using you. Yi Kang breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, she realized that her back was wet, but it had been soaked with cold sweat. At this time, Yi Kang noticed Vegapunk's half-smiley look, and she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Little boy, it's fun to scare me, isn't it? It's quite interesting, Vegapunk admitted directly. Later I proposed a better plan to use you. Do you want to listen? Chapter 59 Persuasion. Yi Kang got goosebumps all over her body. The 4 words how to use made her feel nervous. She turned her face away and said, what do you want to do? At this time, Yi Kang's tone was completely different from the beginning. Her eyes were hesitant, her voice was trembling, and she was breathing heavily while speaking. She no longer had the heroic style of a female ninja. It's not what I want to do, but what you can do. Do you want to become the Kazakage? Yi Kang was stunned for a moment. She was so surprised that her original nervousness and fear were relieved a lot. Me? Become the Kazakage? Vegapunk carefully observed Yi Kang's expression and found that her surprise came from the heart. He couldn't help laughing out loud. So that's it. You are a complete political novice. No wonder you become a victim so easily. Whether it was the Yi Kang in the original work or the current Yi Kang, they were basically easily pitted by the top leaders. Although the sand ninja hero had excellent combat skills and a high reputation, he really had no sense of power and had never thought that he was actually a threat to some people. What do you mean? Yi Kang remembered what the middle-aged sand ninja said before she was charmed and had a vague premonition in her heart. It means that, because your strength is too strong and your reputation is too high, it is enough to threaten the current position of the Kazakage, so this Kazakage will pack you up and send you here. I'm afraid that, even if the battle between the Sand Ninja and the Mist Ninja is difficult to resolve, instead of being one-sided like now, he will use you as a sacrifice in the end. Vegapunk's words completely broke through the last line of defense in Yi Kang's heart. She was stunned for a long time, and finally came to her senses, and understood the reason why she fell into her current situation. How could it be? Ratsa, is a man like him worthy of being the Kazakage? Are the elders blind? So what? Are you willing to cooperate with me and make this threat become reality? Think about it. In order to eliminate the threat of you, Rasa directly sent you to our sea village as a gift. He must know what a beautiful female ninja like you who possesses a precious blood limit will encounter here. Don't you want revenge? Isn't the best way of revenge to make his fears come true? After hearing what Vegapunk said, Yi Kang lowered his head, his voice hoarse. You are not a good person either. You said you want to help me get revenge, but in fact you just want me to disrupt the sand village. Then do you think you have any choice? Besides, I don't really care whether you will disrupt the sand village. I can tell you that the sea village now has almost 100 bloodline limit ninjas. The number of jonins is close to 200, and there are as many as 500 or 600 special jonins. If you really want to deal with the sand ninja, just push them forward. It's just to reduce some post-war chaos, so I want you to be a puppet Kazakage. Yi Kang couldn't bear it anymore and stared at Vegapunk. You said directly that you want a puppet Kazakage. Why should I agree to you? So you chose to give birth to a bloodline limit family in the Sea Ninja village? Vegapunk said threateningly. Yi Kang shuddered. Who wants to do that? Then do you think you have a choice? After a long silence, Yi Kang calmed down a little. You will never support me to become the Kazakage. If I really become the Kazakage, you will not be able to control me. No one can use the cage of a village as a puppet. The chaotic sand ninja is more advantageous to you. I say, don't underestimate people. It seems that you didn't believe the data I reported at the beginning. You thought that the current sea ninja village is only slightly stronger than the sand ninja village? And, wasn't the previous Mizukage of the mist village used as a puppet by a ninja with a Sharingan for so many years? The current Mizukage of the sea ninja village is also my puppet. Isn't he doing a good job? Yi Kang was stunned for a moment because Vegapunk blurted out so much information that she couldn't believe it for a while. What on earth are you talking about? If you want to lie to me, I'm just asking you, if you are given this opportunity, are you willing to do it? Vegapunk rolled his eyes and asked impatiently. Yi Kang opened his mouth and shuddered at the thought of the consequences if he disagreed. Thinking about himself as the culprit for his current situation, he finally gritted his teeth and said, okay, I agree. I'll act according to the circumstances after I get out. As long as I leave here with my strength, how can it be so easy to control me? If he uses a curse seal on me, the worst that can happen is a life. Very good. Then there is only one question left. How many confidants do you have in the Sand Ninja? Vegapunk clapped his hands and asked with a smile. The air suddenly became quiet. Yi Kang lowered his head and said nothing, and the smile on Vegapunk's face gradually solidified. You are in the Sand Ninja. You don't have any confidants, do you? You are a war hero after all. Yi Kang blushed. I didn't think of so many things before. Although I have many subordinates, I always do my job impartially. By the way, I have another apprentice, but he is a little young, not even as old as you. Vegapunk rolled his eyes. The red sand scorpion killed the third Kazakage and defected to the sand ninja village when he was at most 15 or 16 years old. That person also left more than one hidden man in the sand ninja village. You have been the commander of a front line of the sand ninja, but you don't even have a confidant subordinate. Don't you feel ashamed? And Alyosha, how many tons of sand did you have on your head to believe that such a person with only reputation, but no power or subordinates would threaten your position as the Kazakage? Or how little confidence do you, the gold miner Alyosha, have in yourself? No wonder in the later period, apart from Rasa, the shame of the cage level and the bottom of the 5 major ninja villages, there were no young or middle-aged masters in the Sand Ninja village. Only Gaara, the human pillar, could be the main force. Could it be that Rasa had betrayed them? Forget it, I understand. It seems that the transformation of you has to be a bit radical. Since you have no subordinates to rely on, you can only rely on absolute strength. No matter how bottom ranked the Sand Ninja village is, it is still a big ninja village. Your strength must at least increase 2 or 3 times, so that you can compete for the wind cage with some confidence. Vegapunk could only say helplessly in the end. Chapter 60 Artificial Magnetic Escape. Since that day, Yi Kang hasn't seen Vegapunk for 3 or 4 days. Occasionally, she asks the researchers here, saying that it is to study her enhanced transformation plan. Yi Kang has always been uneasy about Vegapunk's so-called radical transformation. Although she did not form gangs, when she was in the Sand Ninja, her own strength destined her to be in a high position. Yi Kang also knows about the dark side of the great ninja village and those human body transformations. Among the 5 major ninja villages, apart from Konoha, the Sand Ninja may be the most researched on the human body, otherwise there would be no such horrible work as human puppets. It is precisely because Yi Kang understands the horror of those human body transformations that she has been uneasy during this period. At the beginning, she could still rely on her original strong will to suppress these fanciful thoughts and not show her fear, but as time went on, she thought more and more, and her feelings of worry and loss were beyond words. So when he saw Vegapunk again, Yi Kang's expression was very strange, just like a patient who went to the hospital for a checkup because of some symptoms, looking at a doctor in a white coat, holding a physical examination form, and preparing to talk to her. When the doctor didn't come out, he wanted to know the result immediately, and when the doctor really came to him, he hoped that he could wait longer. It was probably this kind of contradictory idea. Okay, now lie on that bed. After giving Yi Kang an injection, Vegapunk spoke directly. Yi Kang lay on the bed and asked carefully, was that an anesthetic just injected? What are you thinking about? The one just injected was your transformation potion. Vegapunk looked at Yi Kang inexplicably, said something, and then waved his hand impatiently. Okay, don't worry about it. I'm about to stimulate the effect of the potion. Before Yi Kang could react, Vegapunk had adjusted the magnetic field on the experimental bed to a specific frequency. Then, Yi Kang felt his chakra running rapidly, and a wonderful force permeated the entire chakra, causing some strange changes in its properties. All kinds of metal objects in the room floated up instantly. Yi Kang's face flashed with panic, and then she calmed down. As her mind turned, all the metal came to her side, swelling around her and floating. What kind of blood limit is this? Why is it a bit like magnetic escape? Yi Kang asked with his mouth open. This is magnetic escape. Compared with the one developed by your Sand village, it is a truly complete magnetic escape. Vegapunk took a look and nodded with satisfaction and explained to Yi Kang. The so-called magnetic escape ninjutsu developed by the Sand village is not so much a magnetic escape as a variation of a sand control technique. Even the mixed chakra is wind and earth and does not involve any lightning attribute chakra. This so-called magnetic escape can only manipulate specific metals and has no involvement in the magnetic field. To put it bluntly, it is similar to the difference between Magneto and Magneto, and may even be greater. Because the third Kazakage controls the iron element, his external performance is closer to the essence of magnetism, and can control some weapons such as Kunai Shuriken. As for the fourth Kazakage Rasa, he could only control one type of metal, gold sand, which was so bad that it could almost be regarded as an enhanced version of the sand control technique. As for the magnetic aspect, he did not show any performance at all. In addition to mining, Rasa's gold sand was far inferior to his teacher's sand iron technique in any aspect. After being resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, he even failed to defeat the sand control technique used by his own son. Even if there were various reasons, it can be seen that gold sand was weak in combat. On the other hand, the Cloud Ninja was said to have developed a magnetic ninjutsu, based on the fusion of lightning ninjutsu and wind ninjutsu, but it was also ineffective. It could not manipulate metal sand out of thin air like the Sand Ninja, but had to touch it with his hands before it could be manipulated. Yi Kang felt the magnetic field he was controlling, and felt that he could do whatever he wanted, as if he was using his arm to control his fingers. He could establish contact with the metal within the range without any seals. Yi Kang could even faintly feel that he could completely change the shape of these metals and forcibly extract and refine impure metals from the earth. What a powerful bloodline limit. Yi Kang finally couldn't help but sighed, and then thought about the bloodline limit she had now, which was just the result of Vegapunk's research for a few days, and there was no risk in using it. Until now, Yi Kang really felt how incredible Vegapunk's research talent had reached. At the same time, she was also sure of Vegapunk's previous data on the sea ninja. If Vegapunk had this ability, then it would definitely not be difficult to make the watermelon mountain pufferfish ghost a puppet. Even the so-called shadow of a village, its prestige is worthless compared to Vegapunk's ability to mass-produce bloodlines. After all, the shadow of a village can be replaced at any time. With this ability to mass-produce bloodstains, Vegapunk can find a few elite jonin and transform them, almost making them have the strength of a shadow-level goalkeeper. If they are the kind of people with strong talents, they may improve even more. As for a genius like Vegapunk, there is probably only one in the ninja world in the past 1000 years. Yi Kang is not sure whether his talent is unprecedented, but at least it can be called unprecedented, which is definitely more important than a few cage-level ninjas. Thinking of this, Yi Kang looked at Vegapunk with a complicated look, and even had some bad thoughts in his mind, ready to act. Then Vegapunk waved his hand, and Yi Kang felt that the blonde boy in front of him instantly erupted with a terrifying magnetic field that crushed him like a hurricane and tsunami, easily suppressing Yi Kang's magnetic field manipulation ability, and returning all the metal objects to their positions one by one. After taking a breath of cold air, Yi Kang looked at Vegapunk with horror. Vegapunk frowned slightly. "What are you looking at? Where do you think your magnetic field manipulation ability comes from? You should know that the nano-polymerized artificial magnetic field device just injected into your body was made from my own body materials. In fact, this is a small category of Vegapunk's previous research project, extracting the devil ability gene from the devil fruit ability user, and then implanting it into the human body, turning it into a multiple devil fruit ability user in disguise. However, even so, different devil fruits will cause some rejection reactions. Vegapunk has never really solved this problem completely until he came to the Naruto world and had the power of chakra. This research has really seen some hope. Chapter 61 Experiment. After all, the instruments in the Naruto world are not as good as the decades of accumulation of Vegapunk in the One Piece world, so Vegapunk only produced a nanomagnetic field instrument, which can be regarded as a little practice. Magnetic field is the power that Vegapunk is most familiar with, and chakra can indeed evolve into something like a magnetic field, so the magnetic field instrument produced this time is surprisingly effective. Yi Kang has just undergone a transformation, and can use it after his ability is stimulated. After that, Yi Kang went through some tests, which also allowed Vegapunk to thoroughly understand the effect of the magnetic field instrument he produced, which was basically no different from what he had initially preset. First of all, although this magnetic field instrument is made based on the power of the devil fruit, it itself no longer has the characteristics of the devil fruit ability, and there is basically no possibility of developing it to awakening. At the same time, in addition to increasing the power and being able to create a stronger magnetic field, there is no such strange development direction as the devil fruit. In addition, this magnetic field instrument is not exactly the same as the devil fruit. It is not physical strength that drives its ability, but chakra. As a human energy, compared with physical strength, which is invisible and intangible, chakra is much easier to use, so the magnetic field instrument is also easier to manufacture. In appearance, Yi Kang's ability is very similar to magnetic escape, but in fact it is a defective version of the devil fruit ability, and the ability to be activated together with the magnetic chakra transformed by the magnetic field instrument. The effect is far beyond the general magnetic escape. Even if it has just awakened, Yi Kang's magnetic escape ability has reached the level that the 3rd and 4th generation Kazekage will never reach in their lifetime. If these two people run into Yi Kang, they will probably be killed in a few moves. Obviously, Vegapunk chose this ability for Yi Kang, originally preparing her to deal with Eluosha so as to compete for the position of Kazakage. Yi Kang is obviously very clear about this in her heart. After some tests, Yi Kang has almost grasped the limit of her ability. She doesn't know much about the magnetic escape that is passed down by the Kazakage lineage, but she is very confident in her new ability. No matter how powerful the Kazakage's magnetic escape is, Yi Kang feels that she can at least disrupt and seal its ability to manipulate metal. At that time, with her own burning escape, it will be easy to capture it. At the same time, the more familiar he became with this power, the more Yi Kang was frightened by Vegapunk's strength. The same magnetic field allowed Yi Kang to feel the terrifying power in Vegapunk, which was many times stronger than hers. He looked like a little kid, but why was he not only far ahead of his time in scientific research, but also strong enough to rival the top cage level masters? Okay, the test is over. Vegapunk put away the recorder in his hand and looked at Yi Kang. Next, let's test the effect of your two blood abilities combined. Combined? Yi Kang was slightly stunned and looked at Vegapunk with surprise. Seeing this, Vegapunk had no choice but to explain. Just like ordinary 5-element ninjutsu, there are also combination ninjutsu. In theory, bloodline limit ninjutsu can also be combined. However, as a bloodline ninjutsu, that is a fusion of two chakra properties, there are basically few combinations that can be put together. And your Scorch Release happens to be a ninjutsu that has a certain ability to cooperate with magnetic release. If it is developed well, the other thing I want to accomplish will also be possible. In the empty training ground, Yi Kang frowned, with light sweat flowing from his forehead, and was trying hard to condense a fireball. With Yi Kang's Scorch Release ability, normally, a fireball can be condensed in seconds without a seal, but the fireball she condensed at this moment was a little different. There was a faint blue glow on the periphery of the fireball, which was the powerful magnetic field that was confining the high temperature plasma inside. The high temperature fireball, which was compressed to the limit, eventually changed from the size of a washbase into the size of an apple. Yi Kang felt that he could not compress it any further. He waved his hand before the entire fireball exploded. Under the effect of the magnetic field, the fireball, which had turned into a ball of light, flew out instantly. The speed of the magnetic field was much faster than Yi Kang's usual burning escape. In an instant, it had crossed a distance of 200 meters and bombarded the metal target in the training ground. The ball of light expanded in an instant. Even if Yi Kang closed his eyes, he felt a little stinging in his eyes. Then, accompanied by a loud bang, strong winds and waves accompanied by a high temperature that made her hair curl. If Yi Kang had not used chakra to protect herself, a normal person would probably have been burned. After taking several steps back, Yi Kang opened his eyes after a long time. The scene in front of him made this knowledgeable ninja a little stunned. A large pit with a depth of more than 10 meters and a diameter of several dozen meters appeared on the ground. There was a faint smoke rising from it. Flowing in the pit was a high temperature liquid like magma. The killing power of the burning release on the human body is strong, but the destructive power is not that strong. This kind of killing move comparable to the tailed beast ball has never been mastered by Yi Kang before, let alone Yi Kang. Apart from the tailed beast, there is no large-scale destructive ninjutsu in the sand village. Whether it is wind escape, puppet, or ninjutsu to control sand, it cannot achieve such large-scale destruction. Otherwise, the sand ninja would not like to use poison. Didn't they develop poison to make up for their own lack of destructive power? Although destructive power and combat power cannot be equated, otherwise, the tailed beast would not be so easily sealed by humans. But the strength of a ninja with weak destructive power is not necessarily weak, and the strength of a ninja with strong destructive power must be very strong. Yi Kang was stunned for a moment, and then he came back to his senses, and a flush suddenly surged on his face. With this kind of ninjutsu, when he becomes proficient, even if he single-handedly brushes the entire sand village, Yi Kang is confident that he can fight back and forth. This kind of ninjutsu with great destructive power has always been the most feared power of all ninja villages. The effect is just average. Vegapunk was a little dissatisfied. Through the compression of the magnetic field, the temperature of your Scorch Release can be increased a little bit. Forget it. Practice more in the future. Yi Kang was stunned. This kind of power can only be considered ordinary. This destructive power is comparable to the tailed beast ball. Even for weaker tailed beasts, the tailed beast ball may not have such great destructive power. In response to Yi Kang's doubts, Vegapunk sneered, "What's the destructive power? If I'm determined to destroy, I only need to create a set of super large magnetic field diffusion matrices. Even if it is to reverse the polar magnetic field, it will be easy to directly destroy the world. What I really need is your scorch release temperature. Only when the conditions are met can my energy needs be unlocked." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Gold Miner. Yi Kang was somewhat puzzled by Vegapunk's needs, but she didn't think much about it. Anyway, she couldn't understand those complicated studies. However, after confirming that Yi Kang's current strength was not enough to ignite, Vegapunk didn't plan to let her stay here for a while, but directly issued a task to Yi Kang, asking her to go to the Sand Village to seize the position of Kazakage. Regarding Vegapunk's task, Yi Kang was also in a contradictory state of mind. She hated the Kazakage, but it was difficult for her to let go of her feelings for the Sand Village, and she didn't want to be controlled by others, so she always had the idea of procrastination in her heart. Although it didn't show on the surface, Vegapunk could also see Yi Kang's hesitation. Maybe after this guy defeated Alyosha, he would really take the Sand Ninja to do some stupid things. However, Vegapunk didn't care about these. Did he really think that his magnetic field instrument was so easy to use? You know, the magnetic field is naturally connected with Vegapunk's character. It would be strange if he didn't add some backdoors to his invention. After being implanted with a magnetic field instrument, Yi Kang's own life magnetic field has also been integrated with it. It can be said that Vegapunk can control her every move at this moment, even some of her emotions. In the future, as Yi Kang develops the magnetic field instrument, the stronger her strength is, the deeper Vegapunk will master it. Even now, as long as she is within the perception range of Vegapunk's observation haki, Vegapunk can easily control her body movements. "You are really bold. You dare to come to the Kingdom of Wind with me." After getting off the boat, Yi Kang looked up at the vast desert outside the oasis pier in front of him, with a look of emotion on his face, then looked back at Vegapunk, and said something ambiguous. "HMPH, with my protection, my dear, no matter where you go, nothing will happen. On the contrary, an ugly and weak woman like you, don't make any mistakes when carrying out my dear's mission." The one who answered Yi Kang's words was a stunning beauty who could still attract people's attention even with a veil. Her arrogant and contemptuous attitude not only did not disgust people, but also highlighted her cold and arrogant temperament. The only thing that was inconsistent with her temperament was that she hugged Vegapunk's arm tightly, and her eyes were full of fascination and flattery when she looked at Vegapunk. Yi Kang closed his mouth. The woman named Hancock in front of him was comparable to her beauty, but her attitude of looking down on everyone except Vegapunk, and her fist, that was much bigger than his own. At first, Yi Kang was naturally dissatisfied with Hancock's attitude, until she really fought with Hancock. She no longer had any dissatisfaction on the surface. After all, it still hurts to be beaten by Hancock, and a strong man who is as strong as the god of ninja world is also qualified to say that everyone else is garbage. Although Yi Kang comforted himself like this, he was still very angry in his heart. If I couldn't beat him, I promised to let this woman know what politeness is. I don't know how this little monster Vegapunk makes this woman obedient. Anyway, Yi Kang has come to a conclusion during his time with Hancock. That is, if you can't beat this woman, it's best not to have any conversation with this narcissistic woman. Sure enough, after seeing Yi Kang shut up, Hancock quickly lost interest. In fact, if it wasn't for Vegapunk, Hancock would have been too lazy to talk to other people. At this time, Vegapunk also spoke lazily. "Okay, I advise you not to have too many ideas. If those weaklings of the Sand Ninja really meet us, they will probably be the ones who are unlucky. If it weren't for the complete acceptance of the entire ninja village, it wouldn't be difficult to flatten it. On the contrary, you have also seen the development of the Sea Ninja village, right? If the Sand Ninja also joins my men, then you can also benefit from it. The Sea Ninja village has received a lot of funding during this period of time. The union of those maritime countries has led to the interconnected economic development. All countries have developed quite well. In addition, Vegapunk's invention has improved productivity, so the development speed can be said to be changing with each passing day, far beyond imagination. Even though Yi Kang stayed in the laboratory most of the time, he occasionally went out a few times and saw the development of the Sea Ninja village. Naturally, he envied it. After hearing what Vegapunk said, Yi Kang, who was originally wavering, finally made up his mind. Okay, I'm willing to help you control the Sand Ninja, but you can't really use us as cannon fodder. After hearing this, Vegapunk didn't care. If you want cannon fodder, I can create a lot of them with a wave of my hand. There is no need to find any Sand Ninjas. Just relax. In the vast desert of the Kingdom of Wind, several ninjas appeared on a sand dune and looked down. The endless sand reflected the scorching sunlight, showing a golden color, but the yellow reflection of the sand below was faintly metallic. The ninja walking in the front lowered his head, grabbed a handful of sand, let the sand slowly flow away in his hands, and said in a low voice, "Yes, the content of sand gold in this desert should be the highest." The vast desert also contains a large amount of metal resources, but these metal resources are mixed with fine sand, which is extremely difficult to mine, and there is almost no profit to speak of. However, the world is so big that there are many strange things. There is a special bloodline limit, magnetic escape, which can extract the unique metal element from every grain of sand. Although it is not an easy task, it is much easier than using sand to mine and smelt metals. Ninjas who can possess the bloodline limit magnetic escape are all powerful. Ordinary metals are not worth mining in this way, but if they are replaced with gold, even the top ninjas will still condescend to do the work of panning for gold in the sand under its golden glory. Obviously, this ninja is doing this kind of work of panning for gold in the sand, and now the only ninja in the ninja world who can manipulate the gold sand is naturally the 4th generation Wind Shadow Racer in the Sand Village. The Sand Ninja, who signed the defeat treaty, was so poor that they could hardly make ends meet. Rasa, the leader of the Sand Ninja, had to run around to refine the gold sand to make up for the losses of the Sand Village. It can be said that this Wind Shadow is quite aggrieved. Some time ago, a Sand Ninja reported to the higher-ups that he had discovered a desert that might contain a large amount of metals, including a high content of gold. After hearing the news, Eluosha brought his shadow guards and went straight to the place. Chapter 63 Action. Looking at the desert in front of him, Eluosha was quite satisfied. It seemed that the magnetic field here attracted a lot of metals. The metal content in the sand was very high, especially the gold content. In Eluosha's nearly 5 or 6 years of mining career, it was the first time to see it. Perhaps this order would be enough to match the harvest from the 5 or 6 times he mined gold in the past. Eluosha thought with pleasure, and at the same time, used his magnetic escape ninjutsu to control the tiny gold in each grain of sand to slowly separate. But then Eluosha frowned. The magnetic field of the desert in front of him seemed a little chaotic, which also had a certain impact on his gold sand ninjutsu. It seems that I have to consume more chakra, Eluosha muttered to himself. Just as he was about to increase his chakra, he stopped in his heart. Standing up, Eluosha looked into the distance with a vigilant look on his face and gestured to his shadow guards. Suddenly, the 6 ninjas immediately became nervous and alert. Ninjas have sharp ears and eyes. To be Eluosha's shadow guard, one must have the strength of a special jonin. They soon discovered the movement in the distance. 3 figures slowly walked over from a distance. The proud and beautiful woman with a veil and the handsome boy with blonde hair. Although these 2 people have good temperaments and are obviously not simple people, they were not noticed by Eluosha and others. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the beautiful female ninja who was walking in the front and was heroic. Yi Kang, how did you appear here? Eluosha asked in surprise. After hearing this, Yi Kang's originally calm and indifferent face showed a bit of resentment. Why? In the eyes of the 4th Kazakage, where should I be now? Being a breeding tool in the Sea Ninja village? As soon as these words came out, Luosha's face turned a little dark, and he even felt that the expressions of the shadow guards around him were a little wrong. Some things are hard to say. As a sand ninja hero, Yi Kang has a bloodline limit and is a great beauty. Most of the young sand ninjas have some ideas about her. After learning that Yi Kang sacrificed at the hands of the sea ninja, they were all furious. If they were not really defeated, the war might have continued for a while. Now Yi Kang has returned safely. Once the news that these high-level officials betrayed her is leaked, it will be a big trouble for all the high-level officials, especially him, the Kazakage. Fortunately, the shadow guards around him all know some news and have some speculations about Yi Kang's disappearance. There is no need to worry too much, but if other ninjas see Yi Kang, it will be a big problem. With this in mind, Alyosha stretched out his hand without hesitation, and gold sand rose from his side. Yi Kang, since you have escaped with your life, why don't you hide your identity and live well? Since you appear in front of me, I have to execute you, the traitor who has secretly communicated with the Sea Ninja village. After hearing Alyosha's confusing right and wrong, Yi Kang almost died of anger on the spot. She sneered, okay, you are worthy of being Lord Kazakage. The ability to confuse right and wrong, call a horse a zebra, and play tricks is much better than your ninjutsu. It's just that you want to kill me, but I'm afraid your magnetic escape is not as good as your mouth. You want to kill me, and I want to kill you too? Alyosha was stunned for a moment, and suddenly figured everything out. The Chunin who reported the news, is he your man? Did you deliberately lead me here? Yi Kang sneered without saying anything. In fact, the Chunin who reported the discovery of this mining area was not Yi Kang's man. On the contrary, he was actually a spy sent by the Mist Village. After the Mist Village was reorganized into the Sea Village, these spies naturally belonged to the new Sea Village. However, Yi Kang did not say much, so Alyosha believed in his own judgment even more. At the same time, his face did not show any expression, but he quickly sensed the surroundings and found that there were no other ninjas except Yi Kang and his 3 companions. Only then did he feel relieved. Only 3 people came? Should I say you are conceited or stupid? Alyosha sneered, you don't think that 3 people can really defeat me and my shadow guards? As for the 2 people around Yi Kang, although Alyosha did not underestimate them, he did not think they were really that powerful ninjas. Otherwise, with their rage and outstanding appearance, they would have been famous in the ninja world long ago. They don't need to do anything. I'm the only one who can kill you. Yi Kang sneered and stretched out his hand to condense a fireball. With a flash of light, it instantly bombarded like a meteor. Alyosha was full of confidence, but in fact he was extremely cautious. He was very afraid of Yi Kang's burning escape. Seeing that the opponent's attack was coming very fast, he stretched out his hand and directly lifted a wall of gold sand to directly block the attack. With a loud bang, the wall of gold sand completely collapsed, decomposed, and melted in the dazzling light. Alyosha behind the wall of gold sand turned into golden sand. After a while, Alyosha drilled out from the other side of the ground, but his face was ugly and his hands were faintly charred. In addition, there were only 4 members of his 6 shadow guards left at this moment. One of the remaining 2 was swept into the explosion and his body was completely destroyed, and the other was half cooked by the high temperature and was rolling in the desert screaming miserably. I can't believe. Yi Kang, you've been holding back your strength. Sure enough, you've already targeted me. Alyosha gritted her teeth and said, originally, Yi Kang's burning style had strong lethality, but its destructive power was not strong. The main reason was that its ability to evaporate water made flesh and blood creatures die when they touched it. In addition, the flexible control ability of the blood limit made Yi Kang's burning style awe-inspiring in the ninja world. Logically speaking, for a defensive ninjutsu like Shajin, it would be good enough if burning style could blow a small hole in the wall. A defensive ninjutsu like this, that completely melted the magnetic style and still caused damage, could not be achieved in a short time. There was only one possibility, that is, Yi Kang had concealed her strength. Yi Kang didn't explain this at all. This was actually a blood limit combined ninjutsu that she had learned from Vegapunk at the beginning. However, Yi Kang didn't blindly pursue power, compressing the fireball to the destructive level of the tail beast ball before using it. Instead, she compressed the fireball slightly in the shortest time and fired it directly. In this way, although the power is far less than that of a fully compressed fireball, the attack speed and frequency have reached the almost instantaneous level of the original Scorch release, which is more suitable for battles between ninjas. Chapter 64, Revenge Success. Under the bright sunshine, Yi Kang waved his hand and several small sun-like light balls appeared. Each light ball was accelerated by magnetic force and its speed was like lightning. It bombarded the desert with a rumble. Yi Kang smiled. This feeling of being a turret mage was really good. Originally, Yi Kang was closer to a magic warrior in battle. When the burning escape and her physical skills were coordinated, the killing power was the greatest. That was because the burning escape had a strong killing power on the human body, but at the same time, due to the lack of destructive power, it was easy for the opponent to use various defensive ninjutsu to block it when attacking from a distance. Now, because of the two abilities of magnetic field compression and magnetic launch, Yi Kang's burning escape had greatly increased both in terms of destructive power and launch speed. For a moment, she felt the fun of being a turret mage. This feeling, the power of the two bloodline ninjutsu combined, is probably close to that of the bloodline elimination, right? Although it does not have the absolute destruction of all energy and matter like the dust escape, the firing speed is much faster than the dust escape. Damn it, the gold sand funeral. Alyosha, who was covered in dust and pushed to the limit by the bombardment, roared wildly, no longer stingy with chakra, and the terrifying gold sand almost turned into a tsunami, pressing directly towards Yi Kang. Yi Kang sneered at the corner of his mouth, and the trump card that had been suppressed was no longer reserved. The strong magnetic field ability instantly seized the control of the gold sand, and the surging waves suddenly stopped completely, as if it had turned into a magnificent solidified scroll. What's going on? Alyosha's face was full of disbelief. It's not that he didn't see how Yi Kang took away his control of the gold sand, but it was because he saw some clues that he was really shocked. Because in Alyosha's perception, Yi Kang just used the ability of magnetic escape. Moreover, it is a purer, more applicable, and more powerful magnetic escape. Although it is very different from the magnetic escape that has been passed down from generation to generation in the Sand village, Alyosha, the only ninja who has cultivated the magnetic escape bloodline limit, can still be sure that it is definitely a power related to magnetic escape, but more complete and perfect than it. Haha, just as you thought. Yi Kang only took a look at Alyosha's expression and knew what he was thinking. With a smile on her face, she uttered the fact that Alyosha could not accept. This is magnetic escape, and it is more powerful and more perfect than your magnetic escape. No, maybe you should name your magnetic escape as gold escape. Anyway, you can only control gold. Alyosha's face turned pale and blue. Just when everyone thought he was about to rush up, he dodged and retreated. Did he want to escape? Unfortunately, Yi Kang had already made preparations. She waved her hand casually, and the sand gold originally summoned by Alyosha immediately turned against him and surrounded him like a city wall. Yi Kang sneered, Lord Kazakage, you are really a coward. Why are you going to abandon your men and run away alone this time? Although Yi Kang and Alyosha have an irreconcilable hatred, he has no hatred for those shadow guards. When fighting with Alyosha, Yi Kang basically put all his firepower on Alyosha and mainly defended the shadow guards. So now, even if there is another loss of members in the shadow guards due to the difference in strength, there are still 3 people left. Alyosha's escape will undoubtedly send the 3 of them to Yi Kang's hands. Alyosha had a tense face and was silent. Although he could also say that these shadow guards existed to protect the Kazakage, it was natural for them to cover the rear, but when they were weak and couldn't even escape, the so-called words could only show his weakness. No matter how many petty schemes he had in his heart, Alyosha was still the Kazakage of the Sand Ninja. Knowing that he might die today, he did not show any loss of composure, but decided to fight to the death. Reaching out and throwing away the metal ninja tools on his body, keeping these ninja tools when he couldn't beat the opponent in magnetic escape was undoubtedly tantamount to suicide. Alyosha's face was cold, his physical skills were not good, or it could be said that there were few people in the Kazakage lineage who were good at physical skills. The ability to control sand was both offensive and defensive, developed to the limit, and also had the ability to fly, so the requirements for physical skills were naturally not too high. So he didn't rush up to fight Li Kang in close combat, but instead formed seals with both hands, and opened his mouth to utter wind escape, thousand faces wind technique. Countless tiny and weak wind escape blades mixed in the strong wind attacked Li Kang, but Li Kang just moved her mind, and a large amount of sand gold automatically blocked in front of her. With the sound of beeping, this attack naturally returned in vain. Perhaps because of Alyosha's performance, Li Kang regained a trace of respect for the Kazakage. Li Kang restrained the sneer on his face, with a calm face, stretched out his hand, and pinched it casually, and a large amount of sand gold immediately closed, directly wrapping Alyosha up. As Li Kang's mind moved, he increased the power of the magnetic field. In an instant, the gold dust was dyed red with blood. Then Li Kang buried the gold dust deep underground, making the fourth Kazakage disappear forever in the depths of the earth. After doing all this, Li Kang's face seemed a little confused, and he was stunned in the desert for a moment. But in a moment, Li Kang came back to her senses. She manipulated the gold dust to block several wine-style ninjutsu attacks, and looked at the shadow guards of Alyosha. Alyosha is dead. Do you still want to serve him? The shadow guards did not stop attacking because of this. As shadow guards who knew many secrets of the Kazakage, their strength might not be qualified, but their loyalty was definitely qualified. Okay, Li Kang, these people are all diehard fans of the Kazakage, and it is impossible for you to persuade them to come. Don't waste time. Vegapunk said. The battle with Alyosha at the beginning was Li Kang's revenge battle, and he and Hancock would naturally not intervene. Now that Alyosha is dead, he doesn't want to drag it out here any longer. After hearing what Vegapunk said, Li Kang opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but Hancock couldn't wait any longer. She flashed and appeared in front of the three shadow guards in an instant. She kicked each of them and then returned to Vegapunk like a flash. The combination of the shaving technique in the world of Pirate and the instant body technique in the world of Naruto, plus Hancock's own strong physique, brought an incredible speed. The shadow guards were also good ninjas, but before they could even react, they were kicked into pieces of stone by Hancock. Chapter 65 Arrival at Sand Ninja. You guy. Looking at Hancock, Li Kang's face was a little annoyed, as if he wanted to say something. But before Hancock and Li Kang started arguing again, Vegapunk spoke directly. Now that your personal affairs are done, it's time to conquer the entire sand village. Li Kang took a breath and nodded. I know. But, do you need our help? Don't worry, we are fully prepared this time. We guarantee that the sand ninja will not dare to make any objections. Vegapunk waved his hand and smiled a little. It just so happens that I have prepared a lot of experimental weapons. Li Kang was sweating profusely. That's not necessary. I can do it myself. I just hope that the two of you can be a little quieter. In fact, what Li Kang wanted to say at first was that he hoped that this matter could be left to him, and it would be better for the two of them not to talk. But these two people were guys who did whatever they wanted, and saying this would more easily arouse their rebellious psychology, so he later gave up this idea. Is that so? Vegapunk sighed in disappointment. In fact, as long as the sand ninja retains half of their strength, it will be enough. I still prefer to teach them a lesson, so that they will remember it forever, so that they can be managed more easily in the future. As for Hancock, she just rolled her eyes in boredom at Li Kang's words. It's true that ugly people have many stories. Li Kang, hold on, you can't beat her. After the discussion, the three of them did not stay for long. Vegapunk waved his hand casually, and a small aircraft descended from the sky. This is a means of transportation that Vegapunk directly made by hand. Before the energy problem was solved, the cost effectiveness of this aircraft was not high. Only some guys with naturally huge chakras could use this aircraft to fly at high speed using their body energy. However, Vegapunk can directly use magnetic fields and electrical energy to drive this aircraft, which is faster and consumes less energy. It only took less than half an hour to get from the land of water to the land of wind. Li Kang looked at the shuttle-like streamlined aircraft with a bit of awe. Her understanding of this aircraft was that it was a super high-speed ninja tool. Although it had defects such as being difficult to popularize, the capacity of this aircraft To carry 4 people was enough to allow the top combat power of the ninja village to move to various battlefields in a very short time. Okay, don't look at it. It's just a transitional product. When I use magnetism to develop a wormhole portal within the planet, you can show this expression again. Vegapunk looked at Li Kang's expression and said speechlessly, "The heart of the ninja world is far inferior to that of the pirates. Even if those pirates are so carefree, they probably won't be surprised to see a spaceship, but will only be excited." After the 3 boarded the aircraft turned into a silver light and disappeared into the sky in an instant. Sand Village. Since the battle with the Sea Village ended and the Sand Ninja was defeated again, this place has become very deserted and depressed. Because of the bad environment, there were few shops and foreign merchants in the Sand Village. Apart from the ninjas, there were only some ninjas families living in the village, and the only shops were also opened by the families of these ninjas. But because of this war, the Sand Village paid a large amount of money and resources as compensation, which caused the economy to regress a lot. Except for some shops that maintained basic needs, other shops were greatly affected. The Sand Ninjas had no money in their pockets, so they naturally would not go shopping. Without customers, the shops would naturally close down. In order to recover from the losses of the war as soon as possible, most of the Sand Ninjas also began to accept a large number of missions. Although the Sand Ninjas lost a lot of missions due to many defeats, because the Sand Ninjas now only have about 30% of the original number, each ninja can receive more missions. This is also the practice of every ninja world war. Compared with those ordinary soldiers in ancient times, if they suffer more than 10% of losses, they will basically collapse. Those who can withstand 30% of losses before collapse can be called Iron Troops. Because of the brainwashing education they have received, ninjas can almost withstand 70% to 80% of war losses, if the gap is not too big. This ability to withstand war losses has also led to the fact that the population loss of ninjas has never been small. In every ninja world war, even the victorious country, the loss of the number of ninjas alone is at least close to 30% to 40%. For a village like Sand Village that suffered a relatively large loss, only 30% of ninjas were left in the end. Don't look at the current depression of Sand Village. In fact, because there are fewer Sand Ninjas, the money that can be earned by allocating it to each person will actually be more, but this requires a process, so it looks so deserted now. Of course, if the number of tasks in Sand Village could support 8,000 ninjas before this time, due to the losses, relying on tasks, at most, it can only support 5,000 to 6,000 ninjas. If the Sand Ninja still can't see a way out after reaching a bottleneck, then it's time to launch a new round of war. As for controlling the number of ninjas, it is not within the consideration of the 5 major ninja villages. After all, the 5 major ninja villages have been fighting each other for many years. Once one of the ninja villages weakens, it is self-evident what the other ninja villages will do. In fact, this tendency has been shown in the original work. After the collapse plan of Konoha failed, the Sand Ninja had to completely surrender to Konoha to protect itself, because it was really unable to roll. If it weren't for the ocean barrier, the Mist Ninja would probably not have a good end. However, it is precisely because of the ocean barrier that the Mist Ninja will kill each other internally to that extent. It can be said that blessings and disasters are interdependent. Without further ado, although the number of Sand Ninjas is small now, the basic defense system is still available. There are not many ninjas with the ability to fly, but at least there are some. Even if it can't form an air combat system, the Sand Ninjas have to be on guard. There is an unidentified flying object in the sky. It is approaching the ninja village. It's coming soon. The Sand Ninjas of the reconnaissance squad immediately sounded the alarm when they saw the bright silver shuttle flying in the sky. This is not the time when the ninja world has been at peace for a long time, but the Sand Ninja has just experienced the Ninja World War, and its strength has been greatly damaged. It is the time when they are most on guard, and their security and reconnaissance capabilities are also the strongest. However, the Sand Ninja only has some air reconnaissance capabilities, and as for air combat, this thing is really a blind spot for most ninjas. At most, they can rely on some ninjutsu to directly perform some ground-to-air attacks. Chapter 66. The killing weapon shows its power. Wow. The welcoming ceremony down there is quite grand. operating the aircraft in his hand. Vegapunk had a smile on his face, watching the various ninjutsu thrown up by the sand ninja below, just like watching fireworks. Although the aircraft is quite simple, in fact, the metal on the surface uses the magnetic field of Vegapunk to strengthen the connection between molecules, which can be called a simple copycat version of strong magnetic force armor. There are not many sand ninjas who can launch ninjutsu to a height of several hundred meters, and there is no one whose power is not affected. When the aircraft was hit, the three of them didn't even feel any vibration. Dear, do you want to teach them a lesson? Hancock looked at the sand ninjas who were like ants on the ground, and smiled with a bit of mischief. I remember that your aircraft is equipped with some weapon systems, dear. Wait, no need. Leave it to me. Yi Kang hurriedly wanted to speak to stop him, but Vegapunk had already directly controlled the aircraft and launched the big killer on the aircraft. A beam of light instantly shot out from the front of the aircraft, passing directly over the ground. All the buildings and ground illuminated by the beam of light instantly flashed with light. Then, dazzling light and terrifying airwaves burst out with a rumbling sound. Even the few people on the aircraft could feel a gust of hot wind. The effect of the atomic splitter cannon is quite good, and it is comparable to the dust release. Vegapunk saw the results of the battle below and smiled. Then he sighed again. It's a pity that this ability can only be used when I'm in this aircraft. Otherwise, if I build a dozen of these aircraft, I won't need any ninja villages. Atom splitter cannon weaken the interaction between electrons and nuclei, causing atoms to be unable to exist stably, so as to directly destroy any possible objects. Although the destruction of matter is terrifying, the reason for its huge lethality is the secondary damage caused by the huge energy that explodes when the matter decomposes, which can basically be understood as a small nuclear explosion. This is a terrifying ability that Vegapunk developed by deducing electromagnetic force to the microscopic level, but his control is insufficient. He can only achieve atomic level splitting, but not atomic level reorganization, and there is no way to go deep into the nucleus to directly carry out fusion reaction. If he is allowed to use it himself, because the atomic splitting ability will also cause damage to himself, Vegapunk's output scale will be greatly reduced, and the speed of application will also be much slower. With the assistance of the aircraft, there is no need to worry about the damage to himself, and he can also go all out. As the smoke and light slowly disappeared, the three people looked down from the aircraft and saw that the entire sand village was split in half from the middle. The terrain that was supposed to be a canyon of the sky turned into a cross shape. The beam of light emitted by the atomic splitting cannon was about the size of an apple, but the energy explosion generated by the splitting of those substances directly blew out a canyon terrain that was no less than the sky. The sand village below was wailing at this moment. The sand ninjas who were closer to the atomic splitting beam had already been vaporized or even decomposed. Now, only the sand ninjas who were farther away could make wailing sounds. However, what Vegapunk was really satisfied with was the lethality of the light column to matter. This kind of material destructive power has no so-called defense for all physical existences. Even if it was the so-called Otsutsuki, if he was hit on the head, he would definitely die. Unoka's dust release is still developed based on the ability of chakra and will be restrained by the ability of seeking truth jade, chakra absorption, etc. But the atomic cracking beam does not have these shortcomings. Yi Kang, who was just trying to persuade him, fell silent, looking at the miserable state of the sand ninja in front of him, showing a bit of unbearable expression. Although Vegapunk's attack only added a horizontal line on the sand ninja's line of sky, except for the sand ninja in that area, no other places were harmed. But the number of sand ninja killed and injured was still no less than a few hundred, accounting for 1/5 of all the sand ninjas left. All the remaining ninjas have lost their fighting spirit. If the atomic cracking cannon just now had not cut off the sand ninja village horizontally, but had bombarded it directly along the line of sky, it is estimated that there would be no sand ninja village now. Under this kind of absolute violent suppression, no matter how tough the ninja's mind is, and how strong his will is, he can only be left with despair. It was not until this time that Yi Kang had a vague understanding of what Vegapunk said, that it was easy to destroy the sand ninja. He was completely clear about the terrible extent of the research of the boy in front of him, and was also surprised by his cold heart. The blonde boy who looked at the tragic situation below with a calm face may not have taken the ninjas of this world seriously at all, and even did not regard ordinary people as lives. Vegapunk has been in the world of pirates for decades, conducting various research every day, and conducting a lot of human experiments. Even if he still has some bottom line, he can be said to be as hard as iron. If the village below was all ordinary people, Vegapunk would not have launched such a massacre, but he really had no mercy on the hostile ninja village. Okay, let's go down now. I believe these sand ninjas should become much more docile now. Vegapunk said lightly, I hope these guys have some sense. I don't want to experiment with the effect of microwave stand here. The so-called microwave stand is a trick that Vegapunk used at the future island. The infrastructure of the Naruto world is insufficient, and Vegapunk, who is restricted in many aspects, cannot create the microwave generator on the future island. But microwaves are still electromagnetic field effects after all. With the power of the devil fruit, Vegapunk can easily make up for the lack of basic technology. Compared with the atomic splitting beam, a weapon with strong lethality to matter, the microwave stand seems to have no destructive power, but it is actually very strong to kill organisms. Even those blood cows in the pirate world can be easily steamed by microwaves. In the Naruto world, any ninja village that is hit by a microwave stand will die cleanly. Kang felt that Vegapunk was too cruel, but in Vegapunk's eyes, his actions were the least bloody. Although many sand ninja died, it also completely shattered their resistance. If they were not defeated at once, the killings in the future, in order to slowly suppress and subdue them, would definitely be several times more than now. Chapter 67 Violent Suppression. Kang didn't know what Vegapunk was thinking, nor did he know what the microwave field he was talking about was, but he knew that it was definitely a more terrifying lethal weapon than the so-called atomic splitting beam. In fact, she was right. If the sand ninja was really stubborn, Vegapunk had a backup plan to directly use the microwave field to steam half of the sand ninja. No matter how stubborn the ninja was, he could only bow his head in the face of irresistible violence. If Kaguya Otsutsuki didn't want to hang everyone on the tree, but simply wanted to rule the world, it is estimated that during the 4th Ninja World War, the 5 village ninjas would have defected and become his lackeys. In order to prevent Vegapunk from taking action, Kang was the first to jump down from the aircraft. He manipulated the magnetic field in mid-air, allowing a large amount of metal to form a platform under his feet, and slowly fell down. At this moment, the sand ninja, who was still immersed in despair, looked at Kang falling from the sky, and suddenly, they all opened their eyes wide. No way. Are we in the underworld now? Isn't that Lord Kang who has already sacrificed? It seems to be Lord Kang. What is going on? Why did Lord Kang appear from that aircraft? Did Lord Kang attack us just now? Most of the ordinary ninjas were just surprised and confused when they saw Kang, but the high-ranking officials of the Sand Ninja, as well as a few of the senior ninjas, showed some shock and fear. These people knew very well what happened to Kang, the hero of the Sand Ninja, who sacrificed. Some of them were participants, and some were insiders. Putting themselves in his shoes, they did not think that Kang came to help the Sand Ninja this time, not to mention that the attack launched by the aircraft just now had already shown that the comer had bad intentions. Everyone be careful, Kang is now our enemy. Don't forget, it was she who controlled the aircraft to launch the attack just now. Several high-ranking officials were panicked and nervous. One of them turned his eyes around a few times, gritted his teeth, and stood up directly, pointing the spearhead at Kang. Take advantage of this opportunity now. She left that weird flying machine. Let's take her down together. As soon as the Sand Ninja high-ranking official finished speaking, the eyes of many Sand Ninja changed. It was an indisputable fact that Kang flew out of the flying machine that had just attacked the Sand Ninja village. Most ninjas would not distinguish so much, and direct attacks on threats to themselves have almost become the habit of all ninjas. If it was that flying machine with powerful destructive power and almost indestructible itself, the Sand Ninjas might not have any ideas, but facing Kang, who was just a flesh and blood body, a group of Sand Ninjas were immediately ready to move. Yes, Kang is no longer a hero of the Sand Ninja. She is now the biggest rebel of the Sand Ninja. All the sand ninjas must act together and take her down when she leaves the flying machine. The other high-ranking officials reacted at this time and immediately issued orders to all the sand ninjas. The reason for stopping those ordinary sand ninjas from taking action was nothing more than the flying machine in the sky and Yi Kang's previous reputation, but under the orders of those sand ninja high-ranking officials, many sand ninjas still took action directly against Yi Kang. More than a dozen sand ninjas jointly performed combined ninjutsu, and a giant dragon of wind and fire rose into the sky. 7 or 8 puppeteers controlled the puppets to change and fly, and a large number of poison needles were fired from the puppets. 3 ninjas with the ability to control sand manipulated the sand to turn it into a small sandstorm. Facing the various ninjutsu performed by the sand ninjas, Yi Kang's face was cold, and he stretched out his hand directly, and a golden sandstorm instantly filled the sky. That was the gold sand that Alyosha himself had, which was collected by Yi Kang. Yi Kang's magnetic escape can control all metals. Although the gold sand is the bottom of the metal in terms of combat power, it is extremely valuable. Yi Kang will naturally not waste it, and it is just right to use it temporarily in the battle. No matter how soft the metal is, it is much more defensive than the earth escape and water escape of the same level. A large amount of gold sand covered the sky, extinguished the giant dragon of wind and fire, crushed the poison needle puppet, and crushed the small sandstorm, erupting with a dominant level of suppression ability. As the final inheritance of the wind shadow of the sand ninja, magnetism is naturally able to restrain other traditional ninjutsu of the sand ninja. Whether it is puppets, wind ninjutsu, or sand control techniques, they are either restrained by them, or are at the lower level of their branches. With Yi Kang's much stronger magnetism ability than Alyosha, he easily blew up all those attacks. Then Yi Kang stretched out his hand, and a piece of gold sand in the sky turned into a golden spear, which condensed into one under the strong magnetic force and instantly shot through a sand ninja high level like a stream of light. How could it be? When did Yi Kang learn magnetism? So fast. How could the gold sand controlled by magnetism be so fast? After seeing Yi Kang's counterattack, the sand ninja below was almost shocked and frightened. Unlike the nitrutive burning style that Yi Kang took out, magnetism is the exclusive secret technique of the wind shadow lineage. Almost all sand ninjas grew up listening to the reputation of this ninjutsu, and the psychological pressure on these people is also incomparable. Yi Kang, you actually learned the magnetic escape technique. The village will not let you go. Shut up, idiot. Yi Kang snorted coldly, raised his hand, and shot out another golden spear, which turned into a beam of light. Amid screams, another sand ninja high-ranking official was torn into pieces, and turned into pieces of meat on the ground. Looking at the remaining high-ranking officials who were as silent as a cicada, Yi Kang felt a little happy in his heart. If it weren't for these bastard high-ranking officials, he would not have almost become a reproductive tool of the Sea Ninja village. Fortunately, he met Vegapunk, otherwise he would probably never be able to turn over in this life. Slowly falling to the ground, Yi Kang looked at all the sand ninjas with a stern look in his eyes. Among you, some may know that I was plotted against by the higher-ups and sent to the Sea Ninja village to seek peace, but some may not. As Yi Kang's words spread, the sand ninjas below immediately whispered to each other and talked a lot, with a tendency of being in a state of uproar. For many ninjas, such things as betraying their own people are not unfamiliar. The profession of ninja is destined to be unable to completely get rid of such things. But such things can only happen in secret. Once they are pulled into the sun, it is another matter, especially for ninjas of Yi Kang's level, who are one of the pillars of the sand ninjas. If even such a ninja can be betrayed, wouldn't ordinary ninjas feel even more insecure? However, Yi Kang ignored the discussion of these ninjas, and still spoke indifferently. But no matter what, I will not let go of the sand village leaders who did such a thing. Now is the time for you to choose, whether to choose to follow me, or to die with those sand village leaders. It must be said, that Yi Kang's eloquence is not very good. Even with his own personal experience, this simple and rough approach made many sand ninjas angry and dissatisfied. But now, a large group of sand ninjas looked at the flying machine in the sky above their heads, and they were like whales, not saying a word. Chapter 68, Wind Shadow Yi Kang. When Vegapunk and Hancock came out of the aircraft, Yi Kang had already cleared out most of the high-ranking members of the sand village. Without a leader, The group of sand ninjas were defeated and became very obedient. They stood behind Yi Kang one by one, all of them bowing their heads and listening. Even when they saw the terrible aircraft land and a young man and a young woman walked out of it, no one made any impulsive moves. It seems that you have already avenged your grievances. Now you should be the head of the Sand Ninja, right? Vegapunk glanced at the Sand Ninjas and asked with satisfaction. Yi Kang nodded. Yes, now I'm the acting Kazakage of the Sand Ninjas. Yi Kang became the acting Kazakage in less than half an hour. The speed of his promotion can be said to have set a record for the fastest among the 5 major ninja villages. But there was no way. The high-ranking members of the Sand Ninjas were killed by Yi Kang. There were a total of 8 high-ranking elders in the entire Sand Ninja, 4 of whom were retired ninjas in their 60s and 70s. Basically, their combat effectiveness had declined, and they were usually not counted as jonin. But there are 4 ninjas who are about 50 years old, and at the end of their prime. Those who can become high-level officials are naturally all jonin. In addition to some ninjas who are closely connected with the high-level officials, and also played a role in the betrayal of Yi Kang killed at least 7 or 8 jonins in this wave. Now the total number of jonins left in the entire Sand Ninja is less than 5, including the retired elders like Chiyo Ibizo who is almost 80 years old. What's more, Yi Kang also brought the news that the previous 4th generation Kazakage, Elyosha, had been killed. In this case, the Sand Ninja had no other choice. Because of the huge commotion, Chiyo and Ibizo who ran out of the secluded place discussed it, and without Yi Kang saying anything, they surrounded her and became the 5th generation Kazakage. Because of the defection of the Red Sand Scorpion, these 2 people had already withdrawn from the core power circle of the Sand Ninja. They did not participate in the last betrayal of Yi Kang, and naturally had no hatred with Yi Kang. On the contrary, there was some unpleasantness between him and Rata because of some power struggles. With Rata's personality, he obviously excluded these 2 elders with too high reputation. This time, the 2 helped Yi Kang to take the position. Firstly, there is no other choice for the Sand Ninja now, and secondly, Yi Kang also practiced the magnetic escape technique. This escape technique, which was born from the tailed beast Shukaku, also has a strong ability to suppress Shukaku itself. And because Shukaku is proficient in sealing techniques, it can be said that he is the most difficult one to seal among the 9-tailed beasts. Every time Shukaku goes berserk, it must be suppressed by the ninja with magnetic escape technique. The current Shukaku Jinchuriki Gaara is only 2 or 3 years old. He will go berserk from time to time, and he relies on Rata to suppress him. Now that Rata is dead, for the sake of the tailed beasts of his own ninja village, Yi Kang is also the only candidate for the Wind Shadow. Everyone, this is Dr. Vegapunk from the Sea Village, and heir to the daimyo of the Sea Country. This time I was able to come back and awaken the magnetic jutsu bloodline limit, all because of Dr. Vegapunk's research. So this time, I will hire Dr. Vegapunk as our Sand Ninja consultant, as an honorary elder of the Sand Village. Yi Kang pointed at Vegapunk and introduced him to everyone in the Sand Village, and then announced his decision, causing a slight commotion among the Sand Ninja. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the relationship between Yi Kang and Vegapunk must be complicated. At least Vegapunk should have the upper hand in their relationship, and who knows how many conditions the newly appointed Kazakage has agreed to. But now the Sand Ninja has no ability to resist. Yi Kang is the only one who has the final say here, except for the brother and sister of Abijo Chiyo, and the other Sand Ninja can't even say anything against it. After hearing Yi Kang's decision, Chiyo and Ibizo opened their eyes wide and looked at Vegapunk carefully. In fact, Ibizo was the person in charge of the foreign intelligence system originally controlled by the Sand Village. He had naturally heard of the name Vegapunk a long time ago. However, there were too many valid and invalid intelligence from the Sea Village. Among them, Vegapunk's intelligence was too exaggerated and bizarre, and its credibility was extremely low, so he didn't study it seriously. But this time, Ibizo felt that he might have made a mistake. The aircraft that could emit a destructive beam of light alone had already applied an unknown amount of advanced technology. The only ones who could cause such damage were probably the 8-tailed and 9-tailed with their full power of the tailed beast ball. But even the strongest 9-tail would have a delay of more than 10 seconds when using the tailed beast ball with full power, and it would cause violent chakra fluctuations. Even if they were several kilometers apart, ninjas could instantly sense it. At that time, the ninja village could react completely. Even if they couldn't defend completely, they could block most of the power. While Vegapunk's aircraft is powerful, its launch speed is also extremely fast. There is no chakra fluctuation at all. It also has an extremely fast flight speed and a shell defense that can at least ignore B-level ninjutsu. It can be said that, if this aircraft is used to launch a surprise attack on other ninja villages, it will definitely be accurate. Even the most powerful Konoha ninja village cannot withstand it. Unless this level of killer weapon is invented by oneself, no matter how you look at it, it is impossible for a 13 or 14-year-old child to be in charge, right? If it is really invented by oneself, then the boy in front of him is probably a super genius in scientific research. Then, the information about Vegapunk is naturally highly credible. In the end, Ibizo lowered his eyes and said with his head down, "I have no objection to the decision of Lord Kazukichi. With such a genius, Sand Village will naturally welcome such a genius to become our honorary elder." Chiyo and Ibizo have always been brothers and sisters, and when Ibizo said this, it was equivalent to settling. Since Vegapunk became the honorary elder of the Sand Ninja, he did not do anything else. He first collected all the secret ninjutsu and various research materials of the Sand Ninja, then hid in the house for 2 days to read them, and then returned the materials. If it were an ordinary person, he would not even finish reading the outline of the materials in 2 days, but Ye Kang still knew something about Vegapunk. The only reason why Vegapunk returned the materials was that he had thoroughly studied them and did not need them anymore. In fact, this was indeed the case. In Vegapunk's view, although many of the Sand Ninja's research was full of fantastic ideas, it was too rough and lacked depth. If it were not for the omnipotent energy of chakra that skipped a lot of technology, those studies would only be regarded as children's toys. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Ninjutsu Development. What's going on over there? When did the Sand Village build such a tall tower? A ninja with a face full of grease looked up at the center of the village, a tower several hundred meters high, and asked the masked sturdy ninja next to him with a look of surprise. With the help of ninjutsu, ninjas can build temporary buildings very quickly, but the quality is generally not very good. There are almost no ninjas who can build a tower like this with ninjutsu. It is not a problem to build a tower in a short time using earth escape, but because there is no foundation, it will basically collapse as soon as the chakra is exhausted. What's more, the wind country can be seen from its name alone. There are strong winds all year round. It can be said that it is the most unfriendly country to high-rise buildings. Not to mention towers of several hundred meters. Even buildings over 20 meters are rare. I accepted the mission and have been away from the ninja village for only a month. What happened? I heard that even the Kazukichi has been replaced. Oh, this is not a good thing. I'm telling you in secret, our previous fourth Kazukichi was not a good person. As the masked ninja spoke, the expression on the oil-painted ninja's face suddenly changed. He really didn't expect that so many big things happened in his ninja village in such a short time. Then, that Vegapunk built such a huge tower here in our Sand Ninja village? Do the elders agree? Oh, I forgot, the elders are gone. But even so, this Vegapunk is not a member of our Sand Ninja village, right? Letting him be an honorary advisor, it's really a bit. And that fifth Kazukichi, I guess she might be a puppet of Vegapunk. As one of the 5 major ninja villages, are we going to let this guy suppress us? After the Sand Ninja finished speaking excitedly, he saw the indifferent expression on the face of the veiled ninja opposite him. You don't have to guess. The fifth Kazukichi was originally a puppet of Vegapunk, and almost everyone can see this. Then you actually accept her rule with peace of mind. Do you still have a little pride as a Sand Ninja village ninja? I know it's a bit embarrassing to do this, but there's no way. Vegapunk gave us too much. The veiled ninja sighed and said, don't look at me like this. In fact, I'm one of the more nostalgic Sand Ninjas. Most of the Sand Ninjas are now scrambling to become Dr. Vegapunk's lackeys. for such an opportunity. Those sand ninjas almost broke their heads. You are simply, are you still sand ninjas? Do you still have the nerve to say that you are the toughest ninjas tempered in the desert wind? Well, although you say that, Dr. Vegapunk's inventions can allow ordinary ninjas who practice sand control techniques to obtain the bloodline limit of magnetic escape, and there are also new steel puppets that are much more powerful than ordinary wooden puppets, and small individual flying vehicles specially used for wind escape ninjas. The resources and inventions at hand are really amazing. If they slip a little bit of them, most of the sand ninjas will worship them as gods. Hey, where are you going? The masked sand ninja stretched out his big hand and grabbed the ninja with grease paint on his face. He felt a little strange when he saw this guy in a hurry. Let me go. How can a puppet be made out of steel? Theoretically, the speed at which chakra threads conduct in steel is so slow that it is impossible to have a steel puppet unless chakra iron is used. I must go and see how that guy made his iron puppet. Well, another one to break his head. Letting go of his hand, the masked sand ninja sturdy man looked at the puppet ninja who disappeared in a flash and shook his head. These guys said so firmly, but in the end, when they found out the actual situation, they still rushed to break their heads and become experimental subjects. Sharaha, what are you still doing here? At this moment, another burly sand ninja passed by the roof at a high speed. After seeing the masked ninja, he said in surprise, haven't you heard? Dr. Vegapunk has created a ninjutsu model of wind-style ninja physical technique and is now recruiting experimenters. Why are you wasting your time here if you don't go and sign up? What? Wind-style ninja physical technique? The sand ninja, whose main training direction is physical technique, suddenly widened his eyes. Wait for me, I'll go too. Finally I've got the chance. In the past, I only saw those wind-style ninjas, puppeteers, and ninjas who practiced sand control being so arrogant. Now it's our turn as physical ninjas, right? Who dares to snatch this opportunity from me? I'll knock his head off. On the high tower in the center of the sand village, Vegapunk sat on a high-backed chair, squinting his eyes slightly, looking at the computer screen in front of him, and turning the pen in his hand. Behind him, the current 5th Kazakage Yekiro was like a well-behaved little wife, stretching out his 10 slender fingers and gently giving him a head massage. The jade-like fingertips slightly condensed a little burning chakra, keeping the temperature of the fingers at around 40 degrees, which was also the most comfortable temperature for Vegapunk during the massage. However, Vegapunk still frowned, and after looking at the computer for a while, he bit his pen and spoke with some distress. Well, the fluid model of the chakra pattern has been made. Basically, as long as the formula is entered, all chakra patterns should be able to be developed, and even some bloodline limit chakras can be substituted into this formula. In theory, most chakra attributes can develop unique ninjutsu chakra patterns, but the effects may be different. However, without higher level chakra samples, it is hard to say whether it will be effective for bloodstain elimination or even bloodstain collection. Yi Kang didn't quite understand Vegapunk's research, but he was also very clear about the groundbreaking nature of this research. For a long time, except for the development of the ninjutsu mode of lightning escape, the remaining 4 chakra attributes such as water, earth, fire and wind were not highly compatible with the human body, so almost no one had developed any ninjutsu. Vegapunk was able to find the internal laws of ninjutsu in just a few days, and easily developed the 5 major attributes, and even the ninjutsu of the bloodline limit. This talent is already astonishing. Even Yi Kang himself successfully practiced the burning style and magnetic style in the training cabin specially built by Vegapunk to collect body data, and it only took 3 days. In comparison, Yi Kang felt that his previous hard training was like a joke in front of Vegapunk's technology. Chapter 70 Clone Replacement. It seems that we still need some data on more advanced chakras. Well, it's time to develop bloodline elimination. By the way, Yi Kang, you stay here with me tonight. After hearing this, Yi Kang's face turned slightly red, and his eyes glanced at Hancock who was sitting on the sofa. Unexpectedly, Hancock did not look too angry, but just pouted like a little girl with a temper. Honey, why let this guy disturb our world of 2 people? Can't I satisfy you alone? Or dear, are you tired of the old and love the new? Obviously you were so obsessed with me yesterday. Okay, Vegapunk waved his hand. I want to try to fuse the 3 chakra attributes to see if Yikang can develop bloodline elimination. This is a serious matter. Okay then. Hancock also knew that once Vegapunk wanted to do some experiment, no one could stop him, and she was just using this opportunity to act coquettishly to Vegapunk. But when she looked at Yikang, Hancock's eyes and face changed completely. You must understand your status and position. Serve my dear obediently. Understand? Servant. Yikang gritted his teeth in anger, thinking wildly in his heart, you can't beat her, you can't beat her. That's why he didn't rush forward to get beaten. As for Vegapunk, he took a look at the interaction between the two and then began to analyze the data on the computer. Although Hancock seemed to be too much, after all, Hancock was the most loyal person to him and the one with whom he had the deepest feelings. Vegapunk was not so confused as to distinguish the relatives from the distant ones. By the way, the funds for the Kingdom of Wind should have been delivered, right? As if he remembered something, Vegapunk looked at Yikang again and asked. Yikang glanced at Vegapunk with a complicated expression. It has been delivered. A total of 32 billion taels of funds. This is the total amount of funds needed for the normal operation of the Sand Village for 30 years. Even if it is the 5 major countries, it will be very painful to pay such a large sum of money. Under normal circumstances, no country will give such a large allocation to the Ninja Village. Even Konoha's annual funding will not exceed 3 billion taels, and this is the result of counting the mission system and national funds. If the funding from the daimyo is really counted, it is probably less than 10 billion. Yikang certainly knows why those daimyo and nobles of the Wind Country would do such a thing, because they have long been replaced by the clones created by Vegapunk. When she destroyed the bodies of those daimyo and nobles, she personally used the burning release to do it. When Yikang knew about Vegapunk's plan, she was shocked. Not only that, she also knew that most of the daimyo and nobles of overseas countries such as the Sea Country and the Water Country had already been replaced by Vegapunk. Including Vegapunk's identity as the heir of the daimyo and the nobles, they were all faked using this method. When Yikang first learned about this news, he was almost frightened by Vegapunk's madness. However, at that time, Yikang had already boarded the pirate ship and could not get off Vegapunk's ship. He could only obey Vegapunk's instructions and collect the DNA information of those Wind Country nobles and hand it over to Vegapunk. After that, it took only a few days for Vegapunk to create clones and instill memories. With Yikang, the Wind Shadow, giving the green light, the so-called daimyo and nobles were easily replaced. Later, in order to break Yikang's psychological shadow, Vegapunk directly asked Yikang to execute those so-called nobles of the Wind Country. Although Yikang was under great pressure at the beginning, after killing a noble who was crying and kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, he suddenly became enlightened when he saw the ugly appearance of these Wind Country high-level officials from the initial threat to the final begging for mercy. After directly exposing all the high-level officials of the Wind Country, Yikang firmly stood on the side of Vegapunk. Not bad, not bad. This number is almost close to 1000 Asuma. Vegapunk smiled and said something that others couldn't understand. Seeing Yikang's confused face, he shook his head. Very good. With this funding, the weather tower can be almost completed. By then, I can control the weather of the entire Wind Country, and I can use it to explore the mineral deposits of the entire Wind Country. Only in this flat desert terrain can it be so easy to find mineral deposits with the help of the weather tower. Yikang was slightly stunned, and then he knew the purpose of the high tower under his feet. At the beginning, Yikang just trusted Vegapunk, so he didn't make any concessions to his orders, including inexplicably building a high tower in the middle of the Sand Village. But what exactly is the purpose of the high tower? Yikang has never understood. The tower was built using Vegapunk's technology, and the cost was very low compared to the scale of the entire building. But at first the Sand Ninjas still had complaints about this strange building. However, after the tower was built, Vegapunk began to open up some of his own technology to the Sand Ninjas. Although they had to complete his tasks and obtain enough contribution points to get his technological enhancements, it also attracted the entire Sand Ninjas. They instantly threw that dissatisfaction behind their heads. This tower was built by Vegapunk using the ability of atomic fission. to drive directly into the ground for hundreds of meters as the foundation, and then using chakra to make the shell and magnetic control ability as the metal skeleton. The reason for making this tower is to extract geothermal energy from the ground as a power source for various research, but the most important thing is that Vegapunk also wants to control the climate of the entire Wind Kingdom through this tower. The technological development of the two worlds of pirates and Naruto has its own strengths. In most places, pirates are stronger than Naruto, but not counting the black technology developed by Vegapunk and the ancient technology discovered by archaeology, the gap between the two sides is not too big. However, in terms of weather research, the pirate world is definitely far beyond the Naruto world. In that ghost world, if the navigator on your ship does not study the weather thoroughly enough, it is best not to set foot on the Grand Line in your life. And those meteorologists and navigators who have studied the weather most deeply can use some ordinary props without any chakra to play the effect comparable to top ninjutsu. Because of environmental factors, Vegapunk has also paid some attention to meteorological research, and with his talent, just a little bit of attention, the results of his research have surpassed those meteorology doctors who have studied for a lifetime in the pirate world. Otherwise, no matter how strong the computing power of his quantum brain in Fantasy Star is, if his level of meteorology is not enough, he will not be able to use the butterfly effect to destroy the world. Chapter 71, Bloodline Elimination. It will take at least half a year to complete the weather tower. Even if there is enough money and Vegapunk's magnetic field control ability to speed up the construction, it will still take time to transport many necessary materials. Time soon came to the evening. With a bit of trepidation on his face, Yi Kang changed into a tight-fitting suit that covered his whole body and walked into Vegapunk's laboratory. The clothes on his body made Yi Kang feel awkward for the first time in a long time. This kind of clothes specially made for some experiments are completely close-fitting when worn on the body. For the experimental effect, even underwear cannot be worn. This makes almost all the details of her body visible. To some extent, Yi Kang feels that this is no different from being naked. "You're here?" Vegapunk turned his head and glanced at Yi Kang, looking him up and down, and whistled. "You have a good figure." Yi Kang was immediately embarrassed and angry, and turned his head to the side, cursing a lot of perverts in his heart, and his body was shaking slightly. However, Vegapunk was very reliable when conducting the experiment. After carefully looking at Yi Kang, Vegapunk began to debug the data. His expression suddenly became serious, his eyes were fixed on the screen, and he never looked at Yi Kang again. Only then did Yi Kang breathe a sigh of relief and watch Vegapunk working seriously. While carefully observing the data on the computer screen, he used the magnetic field ability to interact with the computer, and even directly change the internal structure of the machine next to him through magnetic field smelting. At this time, the blonde boy showed extraordinary seriousness. Watching, Yi Kang was also slightly fascinated. Vegapunk's appearance now was handsome and unparalleled. After he had the magnetic field fruit, he deeply developed his biological magnetic field, which made his appearance and temperament reach a nearly perfect level. When he was completely serious, the combination of temperament, magnetic field and perfect appearance was enough to attract all women in the world with normal aesthetics and sexual orientation. After adjusting the machine a little, Vegapunk raised his head and looked at Yi Kang. When their eyes met, Yi Kang was startled and turned his head away slightly, feeling a little blushing and heart beating. The most important thing was that Vegapunk's current body was only the age of a teenager, which made Yi Kang feel a sense of guilt. Raising his eyebrows, Vegapunk didn't say anything. He just pressed the button of a large training chamber next to him and said, "The debugging has been completed. Now you can go in and try the final chakra fusion. I have calculated the specific proportions and pressure values required for the fusion of the 3 chakras of fire, wind and lightning. Theoretically, by strengthening chakra control with brain waves and increasing the internal pressurization of the training chamber and stimulating the meridians, the required blood elimination can be almost perfectly fused. If my calculation is correct, this blood elimination should be manifested in the form of light. This is also because your magnetic escape is a wind and thunder fusion chakra that is subtly transformed by the magnetic field instrument, rather than the wind and earth combination chakra of the sand village. The blood limit burn escape that you now have is a chakra that combines wind and fire. In other words, the 3 strongest chakras in your body are wind, fire, and thunder. Because whether it is wind attribute, thunder attribute or fire attribute, they all belong to the energy state rather than the material state. So this kind of fused chakra blood elimination is naturally in the form of pure energy, and it is most likely in the form of light. As for the specific characteristics, there may be some energy rays that can penetrate materials and kill organisms. However, these cannot be confirmed before seeing the specific results. Vegapunk said a lot with a serious face. Infected by him, Yi Kang, who was originally a little embarrassed and uneasy, calmed down and listened carefully to Vegapunk's words. Vegapunk finished his explanation quickly. Yi Kang was also a smart person and basically understood what Vegapunk said, but she still frowned slightly. It doesn't sound difficult, but can blood elimination be accomplished so easily? Although Yi Kang had long been familiar with the many miracles created by Vegapunk, the ability of blood elimination was born in the entire ninja world since ancient times, not counting the Otsutsuki gods, and only 2 people could master it. In this case, Yi Kang's confidence in Vegapunk was also a little shaken. Who knows? No experiment can be said to be 100% sure before the results appear. Vegapunk answered casually, and at the same time, there was another sentence in his heart that he didn't say. If you dare to do experiments on your own people, it must be when you are 99% sure. At least, if there is any problem, you can save the people. After hearing this, Yi Kang suddenly relaxed, because this sentence is a catchphrase of Vegapunk. When Vegapunk was researching and developing steel puppets and magnetic escape blood training cabins in the Sand Village, Yi Kang, who lacked confidence, always got this answer every time he asked. Although he said that he was not 100% sure. In fact, when it comes to human experiments, especially human experiments on his own people, Vegapunk can be said to be extremely stable, which is very different from the current practice of using human lives to pile up experimental results in the ninja world. Yi Kang, who adjusted his mood, lay directly in the training cabin. Vegapunk closed the door of the training cabin directly, and then did not turn on the machine, but directly controlled his own magnetic force and electricity to operate the function of the training cabin. To put it bluntly, the training cabin in front of him is actually not perfect. Only when Vegapunk personally uses his ability to assist can it be possible to eliminate people through synthetic blood inheritance. Not only that, this experiment has extremely high requirements for the experimenter's chakra control ability and the level of cultivation of their own chakra attributes. Generally speaking, it is almost necessary to be a ninja who can synthesize blood limit to develop blood elimination. Note that it is a ninja who can synthesize blood limit, not a ninja who inherits blood limit, just like the Snow Clan of the current Sea Ninja Village. These people are the inheritors of blood limit, and their own level is definitely not as good as those pioneers. As the magnetic field and electricity flowed throughout the training cabin, Yi Kang felt that his thinking became extremely clear, and his perception was greatly enhanced. He could almost feel the operation of every chakra in his body, and even see his own blood vessels contracting, and his internal organs moving. Similarly, his own chakra also became active in an instant, showing various chakra properties, and the powerful magnetic field passed through his own chakra meridians, suppressing all active chakras, and was in a constant state of chaos and fusion. Yi Kang, whose thinking ability had greatly increased, reacted immediately. She used her now skyrocketing chakra control ability to begin guiding all the chakra properties to merge. She kept in mind the fusion ratio given to her by Vegapunk and began to practice bloodline elimination. Chapter 72, The Power of the New Bloodline. Sizzle. As the door of the training cabin opened, bursts of steam came out. Yi Kang, who was soaked all over, climbed out of the training cabin with a tired and satisfied expression on his face, and his eyes were shining brightly. Drink some water. It looks like it was successful. Vegapunk took a glass of water from the side and handed it to Yi Kang. Yi Kang drank it all without hesitation. There was no nutrient solution or anything like that in this training cabin. The moisture on Yi Kang's clothes and the steam that just came out were all the sweat she produced during the experiment. After drinking a glass of light salt water and replenishing the consumed physical strength and water, Yi Kang finally came to his senses, and then her face turned red. The tight lab coat she was wearing was already close-fitting enough, and after being wet by a lot of sweat, it became even more looming, looking even more attractive than wearing no clothes, making her shrink slightly. But now Vegapunk has no mood to look at this tempting scene. What he cares most about is whether Yi Kang's blood elimination is the same as what he calculated. Okay, take a break. Let's go to the training room to test your current blood elimination later. I don't know if it is consistent with what I calculated. If it is consistent, it means that Vegapunk's understanding of chakra attribute fusion is not wrong, and he can naturally continue to deduce. If there is any problem, and the fused blood elimination is different from what Vegapunk conceived, then all the conjectures and calculation models so far will have to be overthrown and rebuilt, and Vegapunk cannot help but be serious. The serious Vegapunk still has the demeanor of a vigorous scientist. After Yi Kang rested for more than 10 minutes, changed his clothes, and recovered his physical strength, he went with him to the training room specially used for destructive ninjutsu experiments. The entire laboratory is made entirely of metal, a metal alloy made by Vegapunk's magnetic field ability and thunder metallurgy ability. In terms of strength, it is far superior to ordinary steel. After all, Vegapunk's magnetic field manipulation ability is enough to make the lattice structure of the smelted alloy perfect. Many sand ninjas even admire the various alloys made by Vegapunk. The price of some high-grade alloys that have leaked out is almost half of the price of chakra iron. Of course, this is also because Vegapunk spends most of his time doing experiments and has no interest in repetitive work such as smelting alloys. Unless it is necessary, he will not make them at all. Therefore, the alloys that have leaked out are all disassembled from various discarded test products. Like this laboratory, some alloy targets in it will be directly cleaned out by Vegapunk if they are broken by Yi Kang. This is the source of those alloys. The quantity will definitely not be large, so the price will naturally be high. After Yi Kang came to the training room, he also took a deep breath. After Vegapunk adjusted various shooting and testing instruments, he activated his bloodline elimination ability. Yi Kang stretched out his hand slightly, and a flashing beam of brilliant light with multiple colors instantly hit a human-shaped target. After more than 10 seconds, the entire target gradually began to turn red and ripped metallic liquid. Okay, stop. Vegapunk waved his hand, and Yi Kang immediately stopped his attack, but there was still some dissatisfaction in his eyes. The power of this blood elimination does not seem to be very strong. It looks no different from his own burning escape. The only advantage is that the attack speed is extremely fast. Not only does it not require hand seals, but when it is bombarded, the speed exceeds all the 5-element escape techniques. Even if the light simulated by this chakra does not reach the speed of real light, it can also be called the fastest escape technique in the ninja world. Although his own burning escape ninjutsu does not require hand seals and can be launched at the thought, and the speed of the two fireballs is also flexible and agile, it is impossible to compare the speed of this light ninjutsu. Vegapunk obviously saw what Yi Kang was thinking. After looking at the test sheets of several instruments, he said to Yi Kang, who was disapproving, "Remember what I told you at the beginning about the characteristics of this ninjutsu? Material penetration and biological killing. Physical destruction is not the development direction of your ninjutsu. It is already strong enough to have a power close to that of an ordinary bloodline limit." Yi Kang frowned when he heard this, but my ninjutsu did not penetrate the target. That's just on the surface. Vegapunk shook his head. Let's proceed with the second round of experiments. You will soon see the real horror of your ninjutsu. As he said that, he activated his ability and controlled the humanoid metal target to sink below, and then a metal wall rose from the ground. Vegapunk brought in some live animals like desert lizards from other laboratories, tied them up, and put them behind the metal wall. Okay, you can try your bloodline elimination jutsu again. Yi Kang nodded and fired another brilliant colored beam of light, but this time, as soon as it hit the metal wall, Vegapunk called a halt. The metal wall was removed, revealing the desert lizard behind the wall. Yi Kang was surprised to find that, although his attack did not penetrate the metal wall, it did seem to have a great impact. The desert lizard was bleeding from all 7 orifices, struggling frantically, and agitated. After a while, even the scales on its skin began to fall off, and blood appeared all over its body. It struggled miserably for a while before dying completely. Is this my bloodline elimination? Yi Kang showed a bit of surprise on his face. Vegapunk nodded. Yes, this is the real power of your bloodline elimination. Next, we will change other materials to block your light column. Next time, we will use animals with chakra to test the resistance. Finally, after a night of experiments, Vegapunk also came to the conclusion that Yi Kang's bloodline elimination ninjutsu is terrifyingly lethal to organisms. If no defense is made, whether it is an animal with chakra or not, it will be instantly turned into a pool of thick blood by the colorful light column. If defense is carried out, it will also vary depending on the defensive ninjutsu, or the defensive material and thickness. Among them, lead has the strongest defense against Yi Kang's bloodline limit, followed by metal, and then various rocks and soils. The remaining defense capabilities such as water escape can only be said to be better than nothing. Then there is the resistance of chakra to Yi Kang's bloodline elimination ninjutsu. The stronger the chakra, the higher the resistance to Yi Kang's bloodline elimination ninjutsu. Of course, this refers to the ninjutsu after penetrating the defense. According to Vegapunk's estimation, the chakra of a Jonin level ninja, using the earth-style ninjutsu, the best defense among the 5-element ninjutsu, would need to be at least 5 meters thick to basically defend against the lethality of Yi Kang's light column, but even that would likely leave many minor sequelae that could not be cured. Chapter 73 Where the Tower Completed. Vegapunk originally wanted to name Yi Kang's blood elimination as Radiation Escape, but unfortunately this name was too professional and not aesthetically pleasing, so Yi Kang eventually rejected it and named it Light Escape. This escape technique is completely inconsistent with its name. The name of the blood-related elimination called Light Escape sounds fair and square, but in fact it is the most vicious and cruel of all ninjutsu, and it is also the ninjutsu that specializes in killing living things. As long as you have a little bit of contact with this ninjutsu, even if you defend yourself for a while, you will be tortured to death by endless sequelae afterwards. It can be said that, unless someone develops some kind of lead escape, this light escape blood-related elimination will be like an Oki's dust escape blood-related elimination, which is a terrible ninjutsu that can only be avoided but not blocked. Moreover, this blood-related elimination ninjutsu is also extremely confusing. After all, the seemingly lethal light column can actually be blocked. If many ninjas think that they have blocked the ninjutsu, as long as they block the light column, they will definitely die miserably in the end. It can be said that Yi Kang's blood-related elimination ninjutsu, in addition to its own lethality, can also be regarded as a killing move of the first side killing level. Before the information is leaked, even a super shadow level ninja may be taken away by a wave of invisible and intangible radiation. Fortunately, the radiation of light escape is simulated by chakra after all, so there is no radiation pollution, and there is no need to worry about the problem of no grass growing on the battlefield for decades after a battle. Otherwise, when Yi Kang fights in the future, it is estimated that even his teammates will suffer. The development of Yi Kang's blood-related elimination almost completely conforms to Vegapunk's calculations, which also shows that Vegapunk's calculations on the fusion of chakra properties are not wrong. At least there is nothing wrong with the basic theoretical part. If one day Vegapunk can fully analyze the method of fusing 7 types of chakras, instead of relying on blood, to launch it like the Otsutsuki clan, then as long as his chakra control is sufficient, he can not only synthesize the bloodstain net, but also freely perform any blood-related ninjutsu that chakra can do in theory. In other words, a series of ninjutsu, including Flying Thunder God, Kamu, Katamatsukami, Samsara Tensei, Dust Release, and Spiritualization Technique, were all things that Vegapunk could learn at a glance. In fact, the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan is not necessarily stronger than the top ninjutsu developed by the ninja world. It is only because of its extremely high essence that it can show the power of crushing. However, if the essence is the same, the various ninjutsu developed by the ninjas definitely have the potential to surpass the Otsutsuki. This kind of thing is still far away. Even with the addition of quantum chips, it is unknown how long it will take for Vegapunk to fuse the 7 attribute chakras. Even the Otsutsuki clan themselves have no experience in this kind of thing. They all rely on eating fruits to obtain blood elimination. According to the fantasy fairy novels, they are all fake goods who rely on taking drugs. Their physical essence meets the standards, but their strength and realm are a mess. Time has passed in the blink of an eye for another half a year, and the Vegapunk weather tower was finally completed today. The weather tower is 200 or 300 meters high, and it can be said to be the tallest building in the Kingdom of Wind. However, the depth of the underground extension below it is more than 10 times the height. The foundation of the entire tower passes through an underground lake and eventually enters a high temperature magma layer, and the geothermal heat is used to power the experiments of the entire weather tower. Okay, the chakra energy pool has been manufactured, and now the last step is to input chakra. On the third underground floor of the weather tower, there are neither various laboratories nor training grounds, but only 5 rooms. On the doors of the 5 rooms are engraved the 5 characters of water, fire, earth, wind, and thunder. If you open the door, you will find that most of the room is occupied by a circular pool that looks empty, and various ceiling runes are engraved inside the pool. Then let those sand ninjas fill up the 5 chakra energy pools. Can you do it? After hearing Vegapunk's question, Yi Kang frowned slightly. The 3 energy pools of wind, fire, and earth are easy to fill up. As for thunder, it won't be a big problem either. So you can't fill up the water attribute chakra energy pool? Vegapunk said with his eyes rolled, and then shook his head. Forget it, let Hancock do it. The energy pool was inspired by the Sand Ninja's chakra core manufacturing method, and the chakra core is the core technology of the Sand Ninja to control puppets. The Sand Ninja puppets only need 1 chakra line to control, because this chakra core transmits chakra to all parts of the puppet, which is also the most important part related to the quality of the puppet. In terms of the technology of manufacturing chakra cores, the first place is a red sand scorpion, who has now become a rebellious ninja. This talented rebellious ninja has a crazy idea in his long-term research on chakra cores, which is the idea of turning people into chakra cores. The original chakra core was only an auxiliary function, using the heart of an animal with chakra. It had an energy source but no intelligence, so it had to use chakra lines to control and issue commands. Scorpion took this a step further and created a human puppet. In the end, he even stored his complete intelligence in the chakra core and transformed himself into a puppet. He could be called the mad scientist second only to Orochimaru in the entire Naruto world. However, the technology of human puppets was just that in Vegapunk's eyes. The most important thing was the idea of this chakra core. Through transformation, Vegapunk multiplied the flesh and blood of a large number of chakra creatures into a giant heart, which allowed it to have the function of generating a huge amount of chakra and constructing a chakra cycle. As long as the chakra is input for circulation at the beginning, the 5 chakra energy chambers will be connected to each other and circulate endlessly. At least in the 10 years before the chakra heart decays, these 5 energy chambers are equivalent to unlimited energy. As for a dozen years later, Vegapunk will almost find a better alternative energy source, or simply study the mystery of chakra conversion, and be able to directly convert solar energy, wind energy and other energy into chakra. Although the power of chakra energy is not as good as nuclear energy, it is second to none in terms of versatility. If nuclear energy is used to affect the climate of the entire Wind Kingdom, at least quantum level computers must be used. If chakra energy is used instead, a supercomputer can do this. Chapter 74 Weather Modification. What a bunch of useless guys. Yi Kang, your men don't look that good. Even with the help of deer, they are still so bad. Hancock stood at the door of the water attribute chakra energy room, pressed her hand on the word water, and said to Yi Kang with a disdainful expression while inputting chakra. Yi Kang gritted her teeth and said nothing. Facts have proved that she still underestimated the amount of chakra needed to fill the energy pool. The energy pools of the 3 attributes of wind, earth, and fire are okay. These 3 are considered the mainstream of the Sand Village. There are always many ninjas with this attribute chakra. The thunder attribute is relatively rare. The entire Sand Village has only found more than 100 people. After all the efforts, the thunder attribute chakra energy pool is still only about 90% filled. My lord. Yi Kang looked up at Vegapunk helplessly, his face flushed. He was too confident at the beginning, and now he was slapped in the face. Vegapunk frowned. Next time you should estimate the data more accurately. Even if you are not a scientist, you can't always rely on your feelings to do things. Yi Kang lowered his head and replied with some shame, "I'm sorry, sir. I was wrong this time." For Vegapunk, he didn't care about the strength of the Sand Ninja. Even if this group of Sand Ninjas were useless and could never become Chunin in their lifetime, Vegapunk could make them all have the combat power of Jonin level with his own technology. It was just that the scientist's personality made him unable to tolerate Yi Kang's rough conclusions without any investigation and only based on feelings. Then, Vegapunk also stretched out a hand, and the huge chakra that was not inferior to the tailed beast surged instantly, and the powerful energy was immediately injected into the lightning attribute chakra energy pool. As the last energy pool was filled, the 5 different attributes of chakra immediately circulated. At the same time, under the stimulation of the circulating chakra, the huge heart in the sealed room at the bottom of the energy pool also beat. Huge waves of chakra flowed out of the energy pool with the beating of the heart, and the entire weather tower suddenly seemed to come alive, emitting a powerful and terrifying aura. Yi Kang trembled slightly, and the large number of Sand Ninjas who input chakra into the 3 energy chambers of wind, fire, and earth turned pale. Such a huge amount of chakra made all the Sand Ninjas feel like they were facing several tailed beasts. Some Sand Ninjas with chakra perception ability trembled all over. In their perception, the amount of chakra displayed by the weather tower in front of them was close to 10 times that of Shukaku. At the same time, as the energy system of the weather tower was completely completed, with the Sand Ninja village as the center, strange fluctuations spread out, and the originally endless strong winds in the entire wind country were weakened a lot. In the Sand Ninjas in the center, those strong winds suddenly turned into a thin breeze. The biggest problem of desert countries has never been the scarcity of rainfall, but the never-ending strong winds that blow by. These winds take away moisture, break the earth, and blow down plants. It can be said that they are the culprits for the formation of all deserts. Why is afforestation the best way to control the desert? It is because plants can greatly reduce the wind in the desert, retain water vapor, and stabilize the sand. The desert is not lacking in water, but the speed of water loss is too fast. Of course, the ability of the weather tower to change the wind country is not a matter of one day or one night. No matter how strong the chakra inside the weather tower is, it is impossible to completely rely on chakra to control all the weather in the wind country. It also depends on the theory of the butterfly effect to make small adjustments on the weather model. It's just that chakra is more handy to do this. However, more than 10 days later, the original strong winds in the entire wind country finally calmed down completely, and the role of the weather tower began to play. The water vapor that was originally difficult to stay in the wind country under the strong wind also slowly gathered. Soon, it rained all over the wind country. Sand Village, in the fine rain curtain. "Why did you get up so early? It's still cold outside." Vegapunk yawned and looked at Yi Kang standing at the window in thin pajamas, and asked, "I never thought that the Sand Village would be what it is today." Standing on the 100-meter high floor of the weather tower, Yi Kang looked outside with a dazed look. At this moment, it was drizzling in the Sand Village. The rain had started last night, and had lasted until this morning. If you look closely, you will find that the Sand Village below is very different from before. The original Sand Village was completely grayish yellow, but now many places have grown emerald green plants, which looks like camouflage. It will be even better in the future. The current weather in the Kingdom of Wind has been changed in just a month. In another 2 or 3 years, when the plants and trees have grown up, it will probably be considered a complete transformation. Vegapunk climbed out of bed. Yi Kang, who was looking at the rain outside, walked over naturally and helped Vegapunk put on his clothes. Yi Kang has done this kind of maid-like thing very smoothly. Although Vegapunk can be said to be unprecedented in scientific research, it is precisely because he is obsessed with scientific research from time to time that he does not have much time to take care of himself. As for Hancock, although she is very willing to serve Vegapunk, it is obvious that this queen has no talent for this kind of thing. Usually, Robin does this kind of thing. After leaving Nico Robin's universal assistant in the Sea Village, Yi Kang replaced Robin's position. At first, she was a little clumsy, but now she is very skilled. especially after becoming the 5th generation Kazakage and seeing the changes that Vegapunk has made to his own ninja village. Yi Kang no longer has any entanglements with Vegapunk's position and his own identity. Anyway, with his own ability, even if he works hard for 10 lifetimes, it is impossible to make the ninjas of the Sand Village so powerful, let alone let the villagers live such a good life. In this case, there is nothing wrong with being the puppet Kazakage. By the way, sir, the Queen of Laolan you are looking for has been brought here. Yi Kang seemed to have thought of something and asked directly, do you need to see her? Vegapunk's spirits lifted. Ever since he found the mark of Laolan on the world map, Vegapunk has been very interested in this country that appeared in the movie, especially the underground dragon veins of Laolan, which involved a profound topic such as time and space transfer, which made him want to study it. Minato Namikaze's sealing technique could not stop Vegapunk, but the dragon veins themselves were too dangerous. He was not a protagonist and did not want to play time and space again. Therefore, he issued a task to find the Queen of Laolan who had the ability to control the dragon veins. Chapter 75 Extraordinary System. In the room, Sarah, with red hair, walked around anxiously, with a look of confusion and helplessness on her face. Since the fall of Laolan, Sarah has also led her people to migrate away in the past few years. However, in the Kingdom of Wind, the larger oases are basically inhabited, and it is not easy to find a livable place. Fortunately, Laolan was quite wealthy in the past, and every household had some savings. In addition, the Kingdom of Wind was one of the 5 major countries after all, and the so-called lack of resources was only relative. Therefore, even if they only relied on traveling for business, the people of Laolan could still survive. Sarah also had some of the spirit of a queen under the hardships of this period of time, but just when she thought that life was getting better, she was suddenly visited by the ninjas of the Sand Ninja. Sarah, who knew the power of the ninjas very well, did not resist. She just comforted her people and subordinates, and then left with the Sand Ninjas. Only after arriving at the Sand Village did the queen, who was only 20 years old, show some fear. The reputation of the Sand Village in the Kingdom of Wind was not very good. The ninja village itself was a pure violent organization. If it was not for issuing a mission, it would not be good to be found by the ninjas. Why, Sand Village? Sarah muttered to herself, but in fact, she had vaguely guessed something in her heart. In addition to the dragon vein of Laolan, what else could the Sand Village find her for? You know, the culprit who destroyed Laolan was the Sand Ninja's traitor puppeteer Beizu. Beizu was just an ordinary puppeteer of the Sand Ninja. With the help of the dragon vein of Laolan, he could burst out that kind of power. If the Sand Ninja knew the situation, could he really resist the greed for the dragon vein of Laolan? Unfortunately, she had no choice. Sarah sighed. After all, this was no longer her own business. She also had the responsibility of tens of thousands of Laolan citizens. With such a big weakness, she had no ability to refuse the Sand Ninja's request anyway. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Sarah turned her head when she heard the voice. The one who opened the door was a woman with white jade skin, hot body, beautiful face and heroic spirit. Looking at the distinctive hair that turned from dark green to orange yellow, Sarah was slightly stunned and immediately knew the identity of the woman in front of her, Lord Fengying. But it was obvious that Fengying was not the only one who came in. Behind Yi Kang, a blonde boy also walked in. He looked at Sarah with burning eyes and looked up and down as if he was looking at something strange. Sarah twisted her body uncomfortably and her jade-like face gradually turned red. The blonde boy not only had burning eyes and a serious expression, but was also handsome, as if he was the sun god who descended to the earth. Sarah and him looked at each other and felt dazzled. It must be said that, although she was a little shy, Sarah felt a little sweet in her heart. This was not an ordinary little boy in Laolan. Such a handsome guy was fascinated by her. Her charm was quite great. Okay, Dr. Vegapunk, Yi Kang said helplessly, don't scare the little girl. In front of outsiders, Yi Kang usually called Dr. Vegapunk directly and would not use the title of adult. Sarah was shocked on the spot. Dr. Vegapunk? The legendary super scientist? As Vegapunk came up with various super-era inventions one after another, not only the ninja village, but even ordinary people gradually heard of his reputation. However, due to the ninja's unique instinct to keep secrets, Ordinary people didn't know what Vegapunk looked like. In Sarah's eyes, since Vegapunk was called a doctor, he should naturally be a mature and prudent traditional image with a white beard and thick glasses. She never expected that it would be the blonde boy in front of her who looked only about 14 or 15 years old. After all, it is the key to control the energy of the dragon vein, but she doesn't seem to have much chakra. It seems to be an unknown energy system. It's really an unexpected gain. Vegapunk said indifferently. Sarah did have a certain amount of energy in her body, but it seemed to be different from chakra. Of course, in addition to chakra, there should be many other forms of energy in this world, but people in the Naruto world will also call those forms of energy chakra. Most ninjas will attribute it to the blood limit, but they don't know that it is actually a completely different system from chakra. Chakra has taken root in this world for nearly 1,000 years, so now as long as it is a kind of energy, it will basically be called chakra, but it is hard to say whether it is a pure chakra brought by Otsutsuki. This also caused Vegapunk to feel very confused when looking for other energy systems. After all, no matter what energy system, in this era, the name has been changed to chakra. However, Vegapunk confirmed that this world definitely had its own energy system before. You must know that the whole world has abundant natural energy. If the native humans in the Naruto world did not master the energy system, they would not be able to compete with those mutated animals. Even if many animals do not have chakra, their size is comparable to that of Tyrannosaurus Rex or even Godzilla. This is all affected by natural energy. This is since the emergence of ninjas. Generation after generation of killing has reduced more than 90% of the messy mutant animals 1,000 years ago. If humans did not have any extraordinary abilities, Vegapunk could hardly imagine how they would survive in this world. As for why the extraordinary power was discontinued later, it is easy to understand. It is estimated that when the Otsutsuki clan first came to plant trees, the strongest group of people on the planet had been solved by them. After that, when Kaguya Otsutsuki was sealed, the Six Paths Sage spread the chakra ability. Regardless of the final potential of chakra ability, at least it can quickly form combat power, and there are not too many thresholds. The speed of diffusion is still very fast, so it is easy to squeeze out other extraordinary systems. In many cases, the stronger the extraordinary system is, the better it is. The more popular it is, the faster the strength is formed, and the easier it is to spread. Thousands of years have passed, and most of the extraordinary systems have completely disappeared. Perhaps some of them have been incorporated into the chakra system. Many strange secret techniques may have been developed from some extraordinary systems, but it is not entirely true to say that it has been completely discontinued. There are still some supernatural systems that are being passed down in a niche way, but they are still called chakra. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.